Time being 9 o'clock, I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay then, regarding the agenda, I'm going to amend somewhat. We'll go through the entire business portion of the meeting, and we'll finish with frac sand issue updates. Is that okay with everyone?
No.
How would you prefer to have it?
I would like to keep the agenda as follows.
Go straight down?
Yep. Motion to approve the agenda is written.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded to have the agenda remain as written. Any other discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Judy to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dana. Any other discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Public comment period. 9:15. It goes until 9:15. 2 minutes per person. Bob, you're up.
Bob Burns, City of Caledonia. I am neither for or against frac sand mining. From my perspective, we've never had it before. I don't know as we need it now. My concern is with regard to the ordinance as written and the effect it is going to have on current mining and future mining of aggregates and sand used in Houston County. The ordinance as written is going to raise the cost of mining considerably and make current reserves much more expensive, thus raising the cost of aggregate and sand in Houston County, affecting the state, the county, the city, the townships for what they have to pay for maintenance, aggregates, and sand. It's also going to affect the construction industry as far as concrete, the aggregates and sand that they use in concrete, and the cost of construction in Houston County. So my concern more so is the ordinance as written and what it's going to do to the future of Caledonia and Houston County with regard to the costs of doing business in the county. There's concern about people moving into Houston County because of frac sand mining. My concern would be people moving into Houston County, the cost of construction and the cost of taxes going up because of the effect of this ordinance. So my concern is more so the cost aspect for the taxpayers and the general citizenry of Houston County. Thank you.
Michael Fields, Winnebago Township. I will require 2 minutes and 5 seconds starting now. I'm not here to talk about frac sand today. I'm here to beg. I beg you to not devalue my wife's family farm any more than it already has been. The sentence in the non-conforming mines section of the ordinance that says these mines have to only comply with density, volume, size, and reclamation standards means that the quarry next to our farm can excavate a cliff wall right up to our property line. Not going to happen? Bob Scanlon says that's exactly what that sentence means. It also means that these unregulated mines can ignore a whole host of other standards that mines with permits must adhere to. And it probably means they can mine frac sand. Does it make sense that unregulated mines should have more rights and avoid the fees and taxes paid by mines that have gone through the process of getting a permit? Of course it doesn't. And why would the county turn its back on that source of revenue anyway? Doesn't a situation like this make unregulated mines more attractive, more profitable to own than regulated mines? Doesn't this encourage their survival? According to the ordinance, quote, it is the intent of this ordinance to permit these nonconforming uses to continue until removed, but not to encourage their survival, end quote. Clearly, the ordinance views unregulated mines as something to be phased out, not granted privileges unavailable to mines with permits. As it stands, the ordinance before you will take away an important property right of every landowner who borders one of the 130 nonconforming mines scattered throughout the county. Commissioners, you've made it clear that getting a handle on these unregulated mines is important to you. This wording will do the exact opposite of what you want. Please insist that the non-conforming mines section go back to what the study committee intended, that all legal non-conforming mining and extraction operations shall comply with all setback, performance, and land reclamation standards. Put the language back in, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ed Walsh, 45593 Lost Valley Drive in rural La Crescent. Having represented numerous governmental officials in my legal career, I want you to know I have the utmost admiration and respect for you and the significant challenges that face you on this issue. I am here today to encourage you to do the right thing for the county and its residents. And 2 weeks ago, you voted 5-0 and instructed your county attorney to prepare findings of fact and an ordinance that would prohibit frac sand silica mining in the county. And based on Mr. Yant's research of 3 years' worth of meetings, expert testimony, citizen input, and his own legal research, he prepared the declaration and the findings that you have and you've reviewed. In those findings, he's told you that you have the authority to ban and prohibit frac sand mining. The word prohibit or prohibited appears not less than 60 times in your zoning ordinance already. I don't need to remind you that you have this authority to do this. Mr. Yant has already done it. The purpose of my presence here today is to let you know that nothing has changed since you voted on this 5-0 2 weeks ago. I and all of your constituents are here to remind you that you need not legislate based on fear. You need not legislate based on intimidation. You need not legislate based on some supposition that somebody may sue you. I encourage you to do the right thing for the county and ban frac sand mining.
Brian Van Gorp. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day wrangling of small issues. Most of us spend most of our time doing things that don't really matter very much. A wise person once said to me, if it doesn't matter 50 years from now, it doesn't really matter. Not many of our decisions matter 50 years from now. You will make one today that does. 50 years from now, most of us will be dead. What do you want your children and grandchildren to hear about your decision today? Will they hear that you stood strong to protect the beauty and agricultural productivity of the land they live on? Or will they hear that you broke the sacred trust and allowed the land to be despoiled for short-term gains? Will they inherit beautiful bluffs and rich farmland, or a pockmarked and depleted county? You 5 people have the honor of making a decision that matters today. Please act with responsibility to the future and protect this sacred trust for which you act as a trustee. Protect the assets of this county so that they can be passed on to all future beneficiaries. It is the will of the people that you do so. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Bob Hurt. I'm a citizen of Dakota, Minnesota. First of all, I'd like to strongly encourage you folks to do a complete ban on frac sand mining. I know that the last month, 2 months, 3 years has been a difficult time for all of you up here. You've heard from everybody on both sides of the issue, and probably you've heard from some folks that want to keep the frac sand mining industry here in Houston County because they personally might have a legitimate reason that they might be land rich but cash poor. And they feel like they're being backed into a corner. And I'm sure you've heard from some of those folks. So there are other folks that are just out to make multiple hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. But there are some legitimate concerns from some folks that are probably struggling, and their land is what they have that is of value to them. Well, there is a win-win solution for that, and I mentioned it to some of you. And that is the Minnesota Land Trust can help property owners put conservation easements on their land. Well, most people donate those conservation easements, and then they get a very significant tax write-off. Well, for folks who are land rich and cash poor, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because they can't really, if they don't have large profits, they can't offset it with those deductions for the or the credits for the conservation easements. So the Minnesota Land Trust also has funds right now available for certain property owners that might be in a situation that have valuable land that would be good to conserve for the county, that they can actually provide funds to help those individuals out. It's a win-win solution. The land is conserved forever, it goes on the deed, and those folks are helped out financially, and it can happen after you do the ban on frac sand mining. So it's not, you're not cutting everybody off, at the knees that they, financially. So I do encourage you to do the complete ban, but consider that win-win solution too. Thank you.
Good morning. Dave Bumgarner. Okay, go ahead, tear the hillsides down. Tear the roads up, screw up that environment, then raise taxes. Who's going to pay for that? We are as taxpayers, I just read in the paper here last week that they say the butterflies and the honeybees are getting a stink here in right around here. Why is it? Spray. And everything else is taking control of everything. It's killing everything. Even your snake, that's killing everything. So sooner or later, we got to stop doing some of this stuff. I sat here and told a couple people this. One day I went to Lewiston, I was farming. I went to Lewiston one day. And sure, I was farming. I sprayed my crops. But I went behind this one farmer that was spraying his crops. And it was totally yellow as this sheet of paper, spraying. You don't think that gets down our groundwater? Oh, yes, it does. God made animals and the birds of the sky, right? He made all that. He made man to take care of it all. Let's do it.
Morning. Kent Holen, Houston Township. In George Orwell's book Animal Farm, all the animals are equal. But one particular group of animals is more equal than all the others. If you remove the prohibition language from this ordinance, we will be living the story in that book. The pro-mine people infer that we're never likely to have 100 frac sand mines in operation. But let's just say we did. We'll call them the lucky 100. They would constitute less than 5% of our landowners that have enough acreage to support a mine. The other 95% will realize no benefits and will suffer financially and otherwise, just like everyone else in this county. So much for landowner rights, at least for 19 out of 20 of us. The lucky 100 are perhaps the only folks in the county who would not have to pay for this bad business. This ordinance, without prohibition language, is so perfectly designed to promote and protect their interests, it's as if they wrote it. If our lucky 100 were each mining 60,000 cubic yards in Wisconsin, 20 miles from a loading station, they would pay approximately $1.6 million in road fees annually. Here at home, under the same scenario, they will pay nothing. But we would have to pay that $1.6 million in increased taxes every year to maintain our ruined roads. That's $48 million over 30 years we'd be paying to witness the evisceration of our county. Why worry about the uncertain possibility of a tiny fraction of that amount being spent in defense of a prohibition that would save our county from being gutted? You need to stand up for the rights of 95% of this county's landowners and all the rest of your constituents by ensuring that all industrial frac sand mining is strictly prohibited in both existing and proposed mining operations. It is to your advantage to dispel, rather than confirm, a widely held suspicion that some folks in Houston County are way more equal than others.
Mark Schrader, Spring Grove, Minnesota.
Last person to speak, please.
I spoke with a friend of mine last night who lives out in Loveland, Colorado, and he explained to me that they had a similar hearing in his area for a ban on frac sand mining and the insertion of the language ban on frac sand mining in his area. They were successful in passing this. The aftermath of it was that some frac sand mine company turned around, hired a lawyer, sent him in, and got a judge to overturn that law. So I guess my concern today is that the insertion of the language, a ban on frac sand mining, will unwittingly kind of open up the county to an intrusion of this sort by a frac sand company. We'll turn around, hire a lawyer, and promptly find a judge and get a verdict to overturn this ban. So what I'm proposing is that rather than the language, a ban on frac sand mine, you put the most stringent restrictions on mines possible so that it doesn't endanger jobs in the county, but still maintains the boundaries so a frac sand company can't sweep in and open a mine up on the scale that they like to do. Make it impossible for the frac sand companies to make it undesirable for them to want to invest putting such a thing here, and then we won't have to worry about a possible legal challenge in it being overturned. I guess in conclusion, even if I didn't have my way, I guess I would hope that this committee of commissioners would just do something today, please, because our present ordinance is insufficient to protect our environment right now.
Thank you. All right, next item, Travis Lapham.
Morning, Commissioners. This morning I'm just coming before you to get approval of the County Boat and Water Safety 2015 Budget Spending Plan. We were allotted $5,371.00 through the grant this year, and that's based off of past activity. It's down over $1,000 from last year from what we're proposed to get. It's a reimbursement grant, so anything we spend this year, I'll issue the receipts to the state and the federal government and get the money back. It's pretty cut and dry. $1,800 in fuel and $3,571 in personnel costs, and that can be amended. It's kind of hard to predict the future, so other costs might come up, but that's what I have right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking for your approval.
Yeah, you say this has been cut?
I'm sorry, what?
It has been cut?
This is what we're allotted to get refunded.
Okay.
From the grant.
Mm-hmm. So what does it cost to run the program?
Last year, like I say, we're about down over $1,000. Last year we had right around $6,500. I think it was what it was.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think we fell under that based off the research of last year's paperwork I did.
Okay.
So.
And that's based off of activity, correct?
Yeah, and that has many factors. Due to weather, maybe just last year for some reason there wasn't as many accidents or calls for service or complaints. So for whatever reason the activity was down, so we're getting a little bit less money this year. So this is what I came up with, and I'm just asking for your approval. After it's been approved, I need a signature from the sheriff, from Shaw, and from you, Commissioner Schultz.
Okay.
So I can send it in by April 15th.
Certainly.
All right, motion moved to approve the boat and safety water grant.
Motion by Justin, is there a second?
I'll second it. Oh, go ahead, Teresa.
Second by Teresa. Any other discussion? All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep. Thanks, Travis. And Tess, are you out there somewhere?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
clerk to the board asked if I would address the issue of the current vacancy at the University of Minnesota Extension Office. And I'm just, I understand, it's my understanding that Mr. Tessner, who's the extension education agent, is resigning. And so the question came up as to what level the board would be committing to this position, a full-time, part-time, etc. I just want to mention that we currently have an agreement between the University of Minnesota and Houston County that covers from January 1, 2013 and runs through December 31st of, January 1 of 2013 and runs through December 31st of 2015. So we currently have an agreement with them for the current level of funding that we have. That there is not a decision to be made by the board at this time. Our contract is ongoing. The University of Minnesota is responsible to search and fill their position. This is an employee of the U and not an employee of the county. So it's my understanding that there aren't any issues other than just to share this information with the board.
We actually share that position with Fillmore County, half and half.
That may be, Commissioner. I do not have our current contract. Just talks about our level of funding for this position.
It is a shared position between the two counties. And we do have somebody filling in right now till we approve the new contract.
But so the question came to HR what we would be doing. It's not our HR according to the agreement, and I'm sure the U has that all well in hand.
Chuck Shartaw at the U of M had contacted me. He just wants to know, are you okay with filling it at the same level, or are you interested in doing something different?
Going beyond part-time maybe to full-time or something along that line.
Yeah.
In other words,
whatever you want to do. He wanted your input.
It seems to work, I think, as a part-time.
The shared position's been working very good
Yeah.
between the two counties.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't see a reason to change anything.
Continue the way it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will let him know that. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Next, I have a generator. Need to discuss the request to for our 3-year maintenance agreement. We've already are on our next round with Ziegler-Cat. This is a generator, the large generator that's located next to the Justice Center. I am requesting that we renew our Ziegler-Caterpillar 3-year maintenance agreement. It will be at a rate of $4,510.74 per year. This equipment is complex. We did look to see if we could find other, as you may recall, the last time we were had a contract before the board for this maintenance agreement, see if other Caterpillar folks that in the region that service Caterpillar equipment would be interested. We even looked at some of the, I think we talked to the folks at Caledonia Haulers, as I recall. We looked to mechanics in La Crosse, the other region, and because of the differences here, they with the equipment, they did not have any interest in assisting us. So at this time, the maintenance agreement is in front of you. Please keep in mind this generator, although we test it monthly, the fluids run through the generator all the time. It doesn't set cold, idle, if you will. And so even though it has only 55, I believe only 55 hours of actual usage, it has, we have an obligation for routine maintenance because of the circulation of the coolants in the oil. And so I respectfully ask that you consider this and approve it. Please know that the batteries, there are 2 very large batteries that must be replaced every 3 years. We can do that ourselves. We've already checked into the disposal, replacement and disposal. and we can do that at a savings to the county ourselves of $350. So we did try to scale this down. I know $350 isn't a lot of money, but it is. We try to reap savings wherever we can. However, the oil change, etc., and the coolant, really we need to have Ziegler Cat do that. The generator holds about 104 quarts of oil, just to give you an idea, and 58 quarts of coolant. So it's not like changing the oil on your pickup.
I'll make a
Commissioners,
motion.
If I could just weigh in on this for a second. I did review this contract, and there are a couple, normally we have a template of contracts, and we have certain checklists that we like to have. Occasionally you run into a contract that is so important to us, or, for lack of a better word, they don't need us. And it's a service that we need so much. And so there are certain things in this contract that is more of a Ziegler template, if you will. One of the things would be what I call a forum clause, where we want to make sure that we'll be litigating this if any issue comes up in the state of Minnesota, because that's where I'm licensed, and we have to hire outside counsel. We go outside the state, and it's not in here. But given that how they operate this business, even though it's not implicitly in there, I think that's probably covered. The other thing would be a termination clause. Usually you like to have 30 days, and any party can get out of the contract. It's not in there. Again, I don't know if that is a deal breaker, given the uniqueness of the item that we're dealing with here. And as far as the indemnification in here, I've talked this over with Ms. Eric Kruger. It's not explicitly in there, but there is language in there that we would suggest that if it's not implicitly, and it doesn't say exactly the indemnification, it is something that we could argue about, that there is some indemnification in there for the county. But I just wanted to have that for you when you consider this contract.
And just one point of clarification, Council. There is, it's in very small print, albeit there is a cancellation clause by either party within 60 days written notice, but it's not the 30.
No.
Granted, but there is some way out, albeit it's not the 30 we would like. And I appreciate your review and
This is a
comments on
3-year
that.
contract? Is it 3? I think I read.
And if we prepay it, we get prepay the annual fee, we get further discount on it. So
Right.
we'd be opting for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Ziegler for our generator.
Motion made by Teresa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dana. Any other discussion?
The only thing I'll say is just maybe let this be a lesson to the commissioners too. This is what happens when you kind of overbuy a piece of equipment that's extremely large. A lot of people say it's probably a lot more than what was needed, since it's got enough kilowatt power output to power a fair majority of the city of Caledonia. This is what happens. We have very large maintenance costs, $4,500 a year to change oil and check the radiator and stuff. So my 2 cents are kind of behind the 8 ball as it is already. It's already purchased, damage is done, but just kind of be cognizant that it's not necessarily the initial cost, but it's the upkeep that'll kill you. So a lot of money, but there's nothing we're really going to do about it now. Water under the bridge, but just let it be a lesson in the future.
Any other discussion or comments? All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Council. The next item on the agenda is with the Sheriff's Office. I just made an error, and Mr. Mackey has been already informed of this some time ago when the jail administrator and I put this forth, that Mr. Mackey would be going to a step 4 when he returned from leave, going back to regular status, and it was actually a step 3. So we'd like that. We need that clarification of it and request a board motion on that.
Is there a motion?
Motion to clarify the salary from a step 4 to a step 3.
Motion by Judy. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Teresa. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion carries.
We missed calling for the vote on the secret contract.
No,
have a
we
motion
did.
and a second. We never voted.
Yeah, we
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did,
Okay,
unanimous.
we
Mhm.
missed it. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, thank you for your patience, both of you. We're here with Human Services. I think I'd like to take the second bullet first, if you don't mind. That is to to recommend the appointment of Kirby Fitzpatrick as a probationary financial worker effective March 9th, 2015, as step 1, with an hourly wage of $16.28. We had pulled back this appointment earlier so that we would comply with the union agreement to do a 7-day posting. What we had done at the time was to look to a current pool of applicants that we had so that we had a savings to the county. When our searches are rather expensive, we are an equal opportunity employer. However, if we have a recent pool of applicants, we like to take advantage of that because each search costs the county between $800 and $1,000 roughly. And so at this time, we would like to recommend her appointment effective March 9th as a probationary financial worker.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kirby Fitzpatrick as our financial worker.
Motion by Teresa, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Judy. Is there any further discussion? Questions? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion is carried.
The supervisor is here. Did you want to make a comment about the addition to your staff?
As I said before, Kirby's worked with us for the past year, and she will be a welcome addition to the financial workers staff.
Very good. Thank you.
So at this time, we're also recommending Kirby as a full-time case aide, and due to her reassignment, we're requesting your permission to go forth and initiate a search for a full-time case aide to fill that position that's vacant.
I'll make a motion to go ahead with that search for a full-time case aide.
Motion by Judy.
I'll second it.
Second by Dana. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That opposed, nay. That motion is carried.
Lastly, for Human Services, I am sorry to report that we have a failed search. We previously had permission to search for a half-time case aide in support of social services, the social workers. And we had did not have a good response to our advertising, which is unusual because normally we have we're very competitive in that way. I think because it was a half-time position that allows for participation in our health benefits, albeit prorated to 50% contribution by the employer. That's actually what it came down to with folks. And so we would like to have a discussion with the board as to how we go about rectifying this situation. The department desperately needs the assistance. We came to the board not that long ago asking for a full-time position. The board asked us, well, could you try to get by with a half-time position? That's where we ended up with our search. I would defer to the department director to speak on behalf of the department as to what the needs are.
If we go back a few years, about 2009, 2010, the social workers had 2 full-time case aides at that point in time. We did we were trying to save money. We did some rearranging in a way. One person ended up becoming a collections officer, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but just to remind you, that person left, then leaving them with one, and then one of our case aides, the other remaining one, ended up going out to public health and working at that position because I think at the time they felt the funding there was more stable. So anyway, we lost that case aid, and we, at that time, in order to save money, got back and did not replace that case aid. So at one point in time, the social workers had 2 case aides who did a lot of their clerical, freeing up their time so they could, you know, pursue more social work out in the field. Anyway, as it turns out, we have desperately missed, you know, not having those case aides. I guess I would advocate for a full-time case aide for quite a few reasons. For one thing, they would do the clerical that would then cross over and affects, it affects our income maintenance unit, it affects funding, just getting the data entered in SSIS in a timely fashion. Starting in 2016, we have North Star Care coming up, and that affects child protection especially. And there will be timelines with that. We don't get our paperwork and all our data entered in a timely fashion. We will pay for it with funding cuts, that kind of thing. I think Karen probably has more. She could probably
It just
tell
with
you more.
the Title 4E is the funding stream we tap into for children that are in foster care, and that will be directly tied to North Star Care. But if we have a lag between the time paperwork gets to the income maintenance unit to be able to do the determinations, we will lose funding. And if when a child goes into care, there are certain requirements that have to be met up front. So a lot of it's clerical paperwork, court language that is correct. So we really look at, you know, how efficient is it? Are we gonna? What's the potential for losing funding? Because we do draw down a lot of 4E foster care dollars to help supplement. Otherwise, placements are all county dollars. And when we look at other adults, other people that go into placement, getting them medical assistance and making sure we've got that paperwork piece covered. Let the social workers go be the social workers, but have somebody to make sure the documentation is in order and in place. It all intertwines, and we can tell when social workers are busy because, you know, it kind of rolls downhill. So, and just in the time with being the 4E coordinator and not having somebody in that role, it's gotten to be a lot more difficult. You know, I don't know that we've really missed funding, but we do have another federal audit coming up. And if language isn't correct, court orders aren't correct, the submissions aren't correct, those are all things that can really affect funding. So it's an efficiency piece.
Yeah, I have a couple other things I guess I want to say as well. One thing, the social work unit now has gotten to the point where there are, if we would count this person as a case aide, there would be 17 employees and 1 social work supervisor. I can see that's a lot for one person, and I guess where I'm going with that is a case aide could help them take away some of the smaller tasks a social work supervisor would use, and I think it would be very helpful that way. But I guess probably your biggest question is how do we pay for it? And there's a couple things coming down the pike, and they were before they were being talked about, but finally I've got an AMC bulletin that came out on Monday. The state, and I'm sure you're very well aware of the state's budget surplus with their, what is it, $1.6 billion surplus they have figured out. Anyway, the governor has now included an additional $50 million in his supplemental budget for child protection. So potentially that's down the road. Right now, the cost of a case aide, and I figured out I didn't know how much to add on because I know the union contract has not settled yet, but a full-time case aide runs right around $42,000. That ends up being about a $24,000 increase from what you had previously approved. And I can tell you, we have one child in foster care who missed the 4E timelines, and we're going to lose more than $24,000. You know, if that child is in foster care for 2 or 3 months or 4 months, that right there negates the cost and the benefit of a full-time versus half-time case aide. So
So at this point, it's up to the board how you would like us to proceed. I mean, we've made our case for recommending for a full-time FTE.
Seems to me that we talked about, the original position was a full-time, and we were just trying to think of a way, can we get by with a part-time? And the more we hear of the need, I think we need a full-time position. I felt that way when I met with the attorney's office last year about it, so I would make a motion to search for a full-time case aide.
I second that. I just see the need so much in how we can use somebody with making less salary doing more things that our social workers can go out and do other things too. So.
I have a motion by Teresa and a second by Judy. Is there any further discussion or questions?
This is just an issue where we talk about it quite a bit, when we talk about money and budgets and all that kind of stuff, whether we can afford to go to another full-time position or a part-time position. There's a juggling act that has to be done. We've gone through this road numerous times, even with our public health director, kind of go part-time public health, part-time human services to try and see if we can save on it. So, as much as I've always pushed to have a hiring freeze or a pay freeze or something like that, there are certain times where the need outweighs the money sometimes. So not saying that I necessarily agree with hiring and going out and hiring people, but we do have situations where we can save money in the long term, in time saved by doing that. So.
Is there any, any other discussion, questions? Motion's been made. Is all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried.
And lastly, Commissioners, and thank you for that, and I'm sure the Department thanks you for that as well. Lastly, Commissioners, we're recommending the hire of Michael Miners as a full-time probationary status custodian 2. That's at step 1, an hourly rate of $12.42 per hour, effective March 16, 2015. We had a very strong response to our ad. We had a very for a custodian. We had a very competitive process, had some very good applicants. Mr. Miners will be able to assist us with the monitoring of our boilers. He comes with a specialist license, and we would, and very strong recommendations. So.
And this is replacement.
This is a replacement for a position that's been vacant for some time, where we have some one-time savings from it, but this also is at an appointment hourly rate that is at the beginning of the range, whereas the vacancy was, we were paying at the top of the range. So there is some reduced cost, if you will.
I think Mike is probably pretty talented as far as maintenance, fixing things, construction. Comes from a good background in that respect.
We looked at as a complement to the team. We really looked to see where our needs were as far as ability to do certain tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say complement to the team, I mean where we could have some other expertise come in as well. So. And the building foreman was involved in the interview process as well, so I think this is good for us.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Mike
Miners.
Motion
by Judy, second by Dana. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Consent agenda looks pretty blank.
Do we need to move on anything or just? Okay.
I don't think we need to. We don't. There's nothing there. Okay. And would you call Rick and Bob, Dan, have them come in? We'll move on to frac sand issue updates at this time.
And I move that we adopt the findings of fact as submitted by Attorney Sam Yant. I think, Sam, you did a wonderful job in those findings of fact, and thank you for doing it, getting it in a timely manner. I appreciate that.
The only thing I would say is that you may want to decide what you're going to do here first, and then once you make a decision on the ultimate issue here, or if you, whatever you do, then it may be appropriate at that time to give me a week to come back and if there's any tweaks that need to be done. Maybe after you make your ultimate decision, you don't feel you don't need to do that, but it may be something that you want to wait.
I think it's a little premature at this time.
Sure, there's
to
a
adopt.
motion on the floor.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion?
This is a motion to,
Just adopt the findings of fact that was submitted to the board by Attorney Sam Yount.
I think we've all had a chance to
We've all seen it,
review.
yep.
I think we've all looked. Any other discussion or questions?
sounds like the attorney would like us to wait till we decide what we're going to do before we approve the findings.
Yeah.
But, okay.
All of those in favor, say aye.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, certainly.
District 1.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
No.
District 4.
No.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion failed.
Okay, and I'll move that we adopt the Mineral Extraction and Mining Ordinance, Section 27, as presented and from the 24th Houston County Board meeting, February 24th Houston County Board meeting. The only thing that I would say on that with that motion would just be to strike the word only on page 3, just taking it out, leaving the sentence the same, only taking out the word only when it talks about non-conforming mines would be the only thing.
Second.
A motion has been made by Justin, second by Dana. Is there any further discussion?
Roll call, please.
District 1.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
No.
District 4.
No.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion failed.
All right, I will move that we adopt the Section 27 Mineral Extraction Mining Ordinances as presented February 24th without that exclusion of the word only.
Is this the one we received from the planning commission?
Which one
No,
was that?
This is the one that we talked about, that the board voted through, and on February 24th, we had a few corrections, just some tweaks and some errors. And it's the extraction ordinance that we had dealt with last week.
Yeah,
Same motion?
We had righted.
Same motion, just taking the only out?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Justin, seconded by Dana. And does everyone understand the motion? Okay. Roll call?
Yes, please, and just discussion, just in case anybody's not familiar, it's the ordinance that the board you voted for unanimously 2 weeks ago. It's just to officially adopt that
We
as
didn't
the new
vote
ordinance.
for the ordinance,
No.
Justin.
You voted
We
to.
voted
We
to
voted
send
some
it to
changes.
findings to the,
There you go.
we
It
did
was-
not vote in favor of it.
It was the motion moved by the board to send that ordinance to the county attorney for findings of fact. Clarify, happy, right? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct now.
Your motion is to adopt that.
Yes,
That
that's
specific
correct.
ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay.
District 1.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
No.
District 4.
No.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion failed.
I make a motion to approve the section 27 as it came to us from the planning commission with no changes.
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Judy and seconded by Teresa to accept the mineral ordinance as submitted to us by the Planning and Zoning Board. Is there any other discussion?
We just don't want to be without, I feel, an ordinance and go back to the original. That's, so.
Yeah, I guess, it's kind of disappointing too, when you sit up here in front of everybody and everybody's talked about it and it was obviously made and unanimously carried to adopt the findings of fact for that particular ordinance, and now we've got 3 commissioners going back on their word. It looks
No,
very
we
bad.
didn't go back
You
on
didn't
our
go back,
word.
so you approved the findings of fact.
Quiet! Quiet! Another outburst and you're all out of here. Exactly.
Well, we'll remember this voting day when you come up again, okay?
Thank you.
Enjoy your job.
Hey, calm down, hold on. By adopting the findings of fact and sending it to the Board of Commissioners, you've now voted in your intent to move forward with that ordinance. That's what the people see. That's what was on all the TV cameras that we have right in front of us, all
That
of the
was
news
never-
reporters. Hey,
that
will
was
you
never
please,
what
I'll
went
finish my
forward.
sentence if you would please. So that's the issue that we have, and that's what a lot of people are upset about. I know the 3 commissioners, in particular 2, probably didn't have an easy week this week. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails you've heard from the vast majority of people. Not only at the public hearing that we held, at the public hearing the Planning and Zoning held, 2 of them. Emails, phone calls, letters to the editor. This isn't just a few people. This is a lot of people. This is what democracy sounds like. You've all taken this job to do what the people want you to do. to represent your area. That's what you have to do. That's what people are upset about. And it is a little disappointing when you have escalated your intent to go through with the ordinance, adopt the findings of fact, now you vote against it. Now you'd have to go back and get new findings of fact. Might I add, the moratorium's coming up here in a few days. So now we're going to go back to square one.
The findings
I
of,
also-
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
have had, like you say, many phone calls and many emails, but I've also heard from many people who want us to regulate rather than ban. They really don't want the government to ban it.
Yep.
I've had threatening emails, I've had emails that only want to ban but don't really know about the ordinance, and that some of them I've tried to explain with the ordinance that we received from the Planning Commission is very regulatory and very restrictive.
And here's the question, I guess, Teresa, and you say you have a lot of phone calls with people asking for regulations. Do you have data to back that up? How many people have called you?
I do actually. I
You
do.
do?
Yes,
What are
I've
those
been
numbers?
trying to keep.
What are
I
those
didn't
numbers?
bring it with me. You
Well, we
want
know
me
that
to?
92% of the people that spoke at the public hearing wanted an all-out ban. So we know that we
So,
have 92.
because this
so it would
last
be
flyer
hard
that
for me
went
to
out,
say
now
that you
I'm
had
getting here.
anything more than 92% for only regulations and not banning if 92%
I would
wanted a
say
ban.
a third of them were for no banning.
A third of them. And how many phone calls did you receive? What's a third? A
I,
third of
I
three?
got it written down at home.
You got it
How
written
many?
down.
How many?
Justin, I don't think you need to.
But I don't know if you need that.
Hey,
for
Judy, you know
your
what? I
vote.
apologize. This is a job we took. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, like the
Hey,
old adage says.
I did.
That's the issue.
I did.
You know,
take the heat.
apparently
I
it can
took
go
with a
either
lot of
way,
very
Justin.
threatening.
We can be taking the heat from another side too, so it's really
You
not
very well
fair.
could. If you want
As
to,
a
the wolves are
commissioner-
right there, Judy. Which heat do you want? Do you want 8 people or do you want 92%? It's up to you. You can take your pick. I want to be on the side of the people, the majority. The people that elected me to be here, I'm on their side.
I think there's a motion to adopt the
And
one from the planning
I echo
commission.
that. I've had calls too, and my calls are over 90% for banning it. I don't know.
And I've had an opportunity to,
I think
field some
we gotta
calls
listen to
also. And once I've had a chance to explain to people the dilemma that we're in and what an outright ban actually does, they understand the reason for the ordinance.
And what does an outright ban? What does an outright ban do that would be so concerning? It's banning.
Well, number
industry
one,
that's not
okay,
here.
the ban that I'm understanding is ban frac sand. Ban frac sand. Is there frac sand in this county? Is there?
Is there?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We have raw sand. We have raw sand in this county. It's not frac sand. It is not frac sand until you process it into that product.
Okay.
It's an end product. So whatever,
Easy.
it's raw sand can be processed into silica.
Okay.
But that's not allowed in this county. Our ordinance makes sure of that. We don't-
What happens?
Our ordinance doesn't allow processing in this county. It doesn't become silica sand in this county. It has to be exported. It has to be hauled away in order for it to happen.
Sure, let's go through this.
No.
I'm calling for a vote. Calling for a vote.
Let's call for the vote.
Call for the vote, and I don't remember who do we have for motion? Who's for second?
Easy, Ken, please.
I don't think we're done debating this yet. What?
Probably not, but call it when somebody calls the question
We have a motion from Judy, second by Teresa.
to accept the original from the Planning and Zoning Board. Section 27, I believe it is. Okay. Motion is made and seconded. And call the question has been posed. All of those in favor?
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please. All right.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
No.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
No.
Okay, we have 3 to 2, but I believe
fails.
it's 4.
It
so
fails.
motion fails.
Let's go back to the original.
To answer your question, Steve, if it isn't allowed in here under prohibited activities, the only thing it says is any washing of commercial and construction minerals for uses of chemicals and procedures not approved by state and federal regulations, allowing for that processing to take place as long as it abides by state and federal regulations. So no, it does not prohibit processing of frac sand in there. The other issue we've got issues too that, when you talk about volume limits, and obviously that's an issue that has come about. This ordinance does not address volume limits. It does to a fact that you say, well, it's going to be 60,000, right? But then it allows 60,000 100 acre mine or 100 mines. So that issue that it really doesn't get a grasp on that issue.
You've mapped, okay.
Yep, and Mary Marshall, where's Mary? Mary should probably be up here for this discussion as well as our public health director. I do want to say that I think it's a little bit disappointing in the fact that we're literally the 11th hour, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and we're still going to have people come up and, this is a vote that we all have 3 years that we should have studied. We all had this
Was studied.
for several weeks. What are we going to hear that's going to change anybody's mind where we're at right now, I guess is my question.
This
Are we
does,
wasting time?
it does a better job of protecting our county, our environment, and
How
our
can it do
people.
that?
You mapped it, I think, Bob, didn't you?
Yeah, we had that
Mhm.
addressing coordinator.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's even possible. I mean, we already have 100 and some odd mines in the county already. We have setbacks.
And you have
that-
non-conforming mines that in the non-conforming section, they only have to adhere to 4 things. And, that's the question. All legal non-conforming mines, mineral extraction set forth in the section hereof. Here's where it talks about they only have to adhere to 4 issues. I guess that's where I'm trying to get a grasp on this. Are you really getting a handle on frac sand mining? Are you really getting a handle on what's going on when you only have to have 4 things that the mining ordinances have to adhere by? You're not really treating non-conforming the same as any other ones. All legal non-conforming mining and extraction operations shall comply only to density, volume, size, and reclamation standards. When we have over 100, almost 120 non-conforming mines, the vast majority in the county, they only have to adhere to 4 regulations.
That's mainly because I think they're, I don't like to say grandfathered in, but they have,
I'll tell you
they have
this.
a conditional use
I'll tell you
permit
this,
that
we do-
allows.
Yep,
that we
and under
really
Minnesota,
can't.
that's true. But here's the question. Under Minnesota statute 394-36, you do have an issue that talks about trying to get a handle on non-conforming. And so in there it says for all non-conforming uses, the gradual elimination as such uses, 394-36. So state statute says we're supposed to gradually eliminate or start to phase out to make sure all are in compliance.
Right.
This ordinance does not do that. It is basically pandering the opposite way of what the state statutes are requiring the counties to do.
Can you answer that, guys?
Well, yeah, counties can.
Get Donna Buckby out of here.
I didn't make a noise.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
I did not
Whoever,
make a noise.
just get some of these people out of here.
I did not make a noise.
Out.
I didn't do it.
Yes,
Well, then whoever did, get out.
She did. She's sitting
I
there
did not
laughing.
make a noise. And you are discriminating against me.
Quiet.
You're an embarrassment, Sandy.
You don't like it, get out. This is a business meeting.
I didn't make a peep.
As I was saying, counties can opt to protect non-conforming uses if they see fit. Non-conforming uses are protected under our ordinance. They can keep going as they are. If they decide to expand, that's another issue. They do
That
have to
triggers,
come in
yeah.
compliance and get their permits.
Mhm.
Another example of a non-conforming use in Houston County is all our feedlots. They have rights to maintain livestock on those feedlots as they have over the years, because that's a commodity that we value in Houston County. We value agriculture, just like we value our mineral rights. So our ordinance protects it. We protect non-conforming uses today. So.
And I think there is a move towards getting them to be conforming, so to speak, if that's possible.
Yeah, the county can opt to do that,
Mhm.
to bring some non-conforming uses into compliance, more so with standards of a new land use, whatever you're talking about.
Mhm.
And so that's an option for the county.
Okay.
It was discussed in depth in the committee about these non-conforming mines. And Justin, you were in agreement with the committee when that
No,
was,
I was not actually,
that
Bob, and there's a
proposal was
lot of
brought-
things in that committee that
when
weren't
that
in agreement.
proposal was brought to the planning commission, you were in agreement with it.
No, I wasn't, Bob, and that,
Okay.
and to actually say
Leave it
that I
alone.
was, just easy, because we're gonna defend ourselves here. You say that I was in agreement, but you know as well as anybody, and in fact, actually, maybe you don't know as well, because you weren't there nearly as much as everybody else was there. So, Eric, you know what, you had your opportunity to talk by running for election, you lost, so please be quiet, all right? So here's the
Man,
issue.
Justin, that's really.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue.
Stop.
Kick him out!
Quiet. Quiet.
Actually, they do kind of have a point. You did kick Donna out. Maybe you need to eliminate one.
They gave
over there.
Donna numerous warnings.
Okay, well, there's a warning. Here's the
Be
issue.
respectful to people, Justin.
Goes both ways, Judy.
I know,
Do you want me
absolutely.
to bring up some of the things that have been going on? So here's
Go
the issue.
for it.
Okay, I'll do that. So here's the issue that I have. No, we were not all in agreement. There was a lot of things that were split. Mary can attest to that. There was a lot of things that were not in agreement with that. One of them was the non-conforming minds part of it. Now, I know that Dan had a big issue with that and had said that he wants to get a handle on non-conforming minds. Teresa said she wanted to get a handle on non-conforming minds. Everybody was in agreement that we wanted to get a handle on non-conforming minds. So yes, you are correct. I was in agreement to get a handle on non-conforming minds. Do I believe this document gets a handle on it? No, not when the word only is in there. I do not agree with
We
that.
did put in the registration biannual, which would bring them up to standards too.
Right, but only to those 4 things. That's the issue.
But I think, Justin, we talked about that. If we limited, the big thing was the cap, the 60,000 yards. And
Yeah.
the next thing was the 20 acres.
Okay.
And then we talked density. We
Correct.
talked at length on density.
Yes.
And then we talked about the need for the reclamation plan.
Yep.
And we put that in there.
That's correct.
And so the other thing we put in there is this biennial registration, which if you go forward with this, we need to put a time period in there that you want them registered by a certain date. And also you want the reclamation plan submitted by a certain date. That should be added here.
Yes.
Yeah. But we felt that since 73, there's 73 inactive mines out there that, you know, we thought first you go through the registration process and see how many of these mines want to stay open and how many actually voluntarily want to close. And maybe after a year or two, when you get this registration process complete and see what you have, then maybe you do have to step back in. And if you're not satisfied, if you think the health and welfare of the county is being threatened, maybe you do need to step back in and put some more conditions on it. But it was my understanding in the committee that this is where we start, and we need to get started. That was my opinion.
Yep. And I guess just, you know, clarification for everybody in here as well is, you know, and maybe you guys want to run through this. I will say this too, you know, the committee, I think the committee was very good. I mean, we had some good dialect, and I know, you know, the conversation like what Dan and I are having was a very typical conversation during that study committee. You know, everybody kind of talked and played devil's advocate and looked at things. And maybe, Dan, and you're well versed on this, but, you know, as far as that non-conforming, would you guys want to go over that and just explain maybe, you know, there's been some confusion as to what a non-conforming mine is. What really is it? What does it entail, and how are they being regulated? Maybe just to go through, we have a captive audience, you know, and kind of discuss that.
Yeah,
Is that
well,
possible?
the non-conforming mines were the mines that were in, they were here before zoning laws came into being.
Yep.
So they were, another term for it is grandfathered in. But the other term is a non-conforming use or a non-conforming mines. So at that time, as I understand it, back in 1972, they were required to register with the county, and they were required to file a reclamation plan. But that did not get followed up on by the zoning administrator at that time, nor by the commissioners at that time. Now, they did register, but they did not file reclamation plans, as I understand it. And I feel they need to. We need to get moving down the road where they do. But anyway, the non-conforming mines would be the mines that were here prior to zoning laws. And the county gave them a right to exist and continue with their operations provided, and if they expanded beyond their original scope or legal descriptions, then they needed to apply for a conditional use permit. And some of them have. I believe we have at this point now is 12 mines with conditional use permits. So some of them did. You would have thought maybe more, but we got 12. So that's what we got. And an interesting point, somebody that has a conditional use permit at this point, that's what he's governed by. He's not governed by new regulations now. He operates under the conditional use permit that was granted to him. So keep in mind that any of these new rules don't apply to existing cups.
So how do we as a county adhere to 394.36?
Which one? I don't have that in front of me.
Well, I'll give you the excerpt from it. But in 394.36,
Is that in our,
Minnesota statutes?
yeah, you can find it in the Minnesota statutes if you like.
oh, I thought we had it here.
It just says the gradual elimination of such uses. I guess, you know, is Houston County kind of adhering to that and trying to gradually eliminate such uses, or is that?
Well, as Bob says, a county can elect to protect non-conforming uses if they want. They elected to, the county board in 1972 said that if you're existing and if you register your non-conforming status would be protected. That's how, as I understand it. You maybe ask the county attorney on that.
And then what's what's the reason that we only have 4 ordinances that they need to adhere to? Why was it chosen just those 4?
Because I think it's where we thought we should start, Justin. First, the big thing that we felt in the committee, as I understood it, was that we need to get them registered. Again, re-registering. And the re-registering process, we need to determine how many of these mines actually want to stay active and how many want to close. I mean, theoretically, the county could go out and say, if you haven't done anything, possibly they could go out and say, if you haven't done anything for the last 10 years, we'll shut you down. My opinion about that is that's heavy-handed government, and it could be challenged as a taking. I think it's much better to have this registration process, see which mines, 73 of them are inactive, see which ones want to come forward and deactivate or unregister. And then the ones that do, they're going to be classified as an active mine. It could very well change their tax structure, the rate that they're taxed at. We talked about that. It also, they're going to have to, they can't go beyond 60,000 yards. They can't have more than 20 acres open. They can't be more than a mile apart. If they're within a mile now, they can't expand closer to each other. If they're near a trout stream, they can't expand toward the trout stream. They got to expand away from it. That's all part of it. And then the reclamation plan is a huge thing, and we got to set a timetable on there and get that set up.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin, I think that's where we start with this thing. And then a year or so, we look at where are we? So let's say out of the 73, maybe 30 of them said we want to be unregistered. So then we end up with, I'm just picking numbers now, just say there's 43 of them that want to stay active. Okay, you look at their original registration, where they're at, and if the county board or the governing body at that time feels that you need more regulations to control them, then you look at that. But we heard loud and clear from the townships and the cities that they want the price of gravel to stay where it's at so they can afford it, that they don't get their taxes increased. And these are the mines that are providing sand and gravel to the county right now. They're providing jobs. I mean, the active ones, not the inactive ones. But so we're trying to balance between protecting the townships and the municipalities and protecting the people. I don't know of anyone that wants large-scale frac sand mining in this county. No one.
If that be the case.
And these bodies.
Right. And that's why I say that we have to have the provisional language, because you hit the nail right on the head. Put that in there, and then nobody would worry. The problem is if you don't have that in there, how do you get a handle on the non-conforming mines? Because it's allowing the loophole that now they can do all of this, basically industrial scale mining, and they can do it on 100 small little mines. So how do you prevent that from happening?
But Justin, they can't. They're limited to 20 acres. They're limited to the area.
You can't take 20 acres at a time?
They're limited to the area that they originally registered.
Right, but they can expand. And we have areas that are allowed 80 acres, 60 acres, or whatever is what their size is.
But Justin, they're not, like I heard the term, they're not a little lawless sinner out here that can just go on. If they're doing something that's going to threaten the health and welfare of the county can step in. The county can step in on non-conforming mines a lot easier than they can on conditional use permits.
Who's going to enforce that?
Well, we have a county attorney, we have a zoning administrator, we have a county board. Enforcement policies are enforcement authority is with the board. If you guys see something, order the zoning administrator. If he doesn't do it to what you think, order him to do it.
Right.
Or hire him help so he can do it.
Right, but I guess I still beg to go back to the question of how do you prevent this from taking off? We know that there's loopholes. We know that this ordinance isn't great. How do you protect that?
I think a good start, Justin, is 60,000 yard.
But that was an arbitrary number that was thrown out, 60. Even Mary Marshall, our public health director, was very adamant that why are we going 60? So we're kind of setting an arbitrary number at 60.
Well, the reason we picked it, because they're at 35 or 40 now, we got to give them some room to expand. That's why we picked it.
But that's the arbitrary part, is you can go 45,
well, that's
40,
the
37
number.
and a
That's
half,
the number that we
too
came
high.
up with in the study committee, and that's the number we went with.
Because, right, but it's an arbitrary number. So the question that I have is how do you prevent 160 60-yard mines from popping up all over the place. How do you do that?
Okay, now, what are you talking about? New mines are you
No,
talking
I'm
about?
talking about non-conforming mines, the mines that. are
First of all,
vast-
we only have 73, we have 131 total, 47 are active.
Okay,
So there's 73 inactive.
sure, and those inactives could become active,
They
correct?
could or they could
Right.
unregister.
Yep, but
With this
if they decide to
registration
go
process.
active-
What's that?
If they decide to go active, you have 100, almost 120. 73 and
Well,
45.
we could, but they're still limited in area that they can operate, and they're limited to volume. They're
Right,
limited to density.
60,000.
What's that?
Yeah, right, they're limited to 60,000.
Yeah.
So that's my question, how do you keep from 118 to
Well,
60,000?
another argument I think could be made that if they expand beyond their original plan or their original scope,
But who determines what their original plan and scope was? Because when they went, it was, yeah,
You
but
guys.
you're leaving that up to 5 people to determine on their own what they feel is the original
Well,
scope.
you're
There needs to be
you're the
something in
governing
writing.
body.
What is the original scope? They say, our original scope was to mine sand, so that's what we're going to continue to do, and now you got your loophole.
Okay, let me, if I could ask the county attorney to weigh in here about the original, see, the language reads, as I understand it, that if these non-conforming mines expand beyond, well, the word scope is not used here. Let's see, let's find it here. Expansion, for the purpose of this section, expansion may mean any increase in dimension, size, area, volume of mine site. Expansion also includes any placement of structure, of course. But at any rate, if these, if they maybe, I don't know, could we ask, would you want to weigh in on this scope question? I mean, if a mine registered back in 1972, and of course, unfortunately, some of them didn't put down a lot of information. Some of them just gave a legal description. At that time, the county commissioners and the zoning office, they never asked for more than that, and that's unfortunate. So there are some that we don't know. Again, that's why I think this re-registration is so critical at this point, Justin, that
Right.
we re-register these mines.
That's the question.
Yeah, but okay, but now the question is then, you're asking exactly how would you prevent all 73 of them from being 60,000? Well, first of all, less than half, no, there's not even that. It's probably only a third of them are sand mines. Would there be that many? Would be sand mines? Because most of these 73 inactive mines are aggregate mines.
Okay. Maybe we know that you can take the floor out or do something, get sand.
What's that?
I'm just saying, there's
No,
talk
no,
and
no.
people are
If
saying-
their original activity was crushed rock,
Right, but we
I would
have some
argue
that
they
didn't
can't go to
specify
sand.
that.
If the original activity was crushed rock, they can't go to sand.
Right, but we just talked about there are some that never specified prior to this.
I know, but you'd have to determine what they were doing. I mean, at that point, let's say you go and look at each individual situation. If somebody comes in and re-registers now,
Yep,
and all he had down prior was 80 acres,
yep.
you're going to have to ask him, what's he going to do? What's he intend to do? What has he been doing?
Mhm.
And then at that point, a judgment call is going to have to be made. And that's where we're going to rely on legal help to decide. I mean, if he has never taken sand out of that location, I would argue that he can't now. But I'm not the lawyer here.
So I guess that's the question, though. I mean,
Well, then
by not
ask
having it in writing-
ask for legal opinion.
Sure,
You know,
but
yeah.
by not having it in writing, you leave it up to arbitrary for 5 individuals to
Well-
decide what it is. I mean, that's what a lot of people are asking for, is let's have
Okay.
it in writing. And if that's true, let's have that in writing.
I don't know how you want to word. If you want to wordify, we didn't talk necessarily about that in the study committee, but I mean, we absolutely need to get a handle if these guys want to mine rock or if they want to mine sand.
Mhm.
And if they haven't mined sand, it's not part of the original deal.
Right.
You know, they can't. You know.
So then if they have, and you have those mines that have, again, the question is, what prevents all of those sand mines from coming up and all taking out 60,000? We know that one of the operators has already said publicly that they plan to basically hop from mine to mine to try and keep it down in any one particular area, but using multiple sites at once.
Well,
How do you prevent
was he
that from
referring to Houston County, or was that up that? You're talking about Minnesota Sands, that article in the Minneapolis paper. He never even mentioned Houston County in that.
No,
article.
he didn't. So that's the
Oh.
question. How do you prevent that from happening in Houston County?
Okay, well, I think our 60,000 yard cap is a big start.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. How do you
Yeah.
prevent 60,000 yards and having all of those mines do 60,000? That's the question. Because that's exactly what he's saying he wants to do, is keep the high volumes down and just go 100 small ones. I guess that's the question. That's what a lot of people have the concerns about.
Well, I
And
think
nobody
that-
wants to interfere
Yeah.
with the already existing mines in the aggregate and all that kind of stuff. So we know that, and we'd like to protect them. That's not debatable.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same page there. But that's the question, and that's the concern for a lot of people, is how do you get a handle on it to make sure that it's not being done that way?
Would 60,000 per operator work? Per individual, corporation or operator?
Well, our mines are registered per site, per
Yeah,
description.
per site,
So
okay.
Kind of tough.
It would be. Okay.
I still think there's an argument to be made, Justin, about the original scope of the mine.
Mhm.
And so if that changes significantly, the county would have grounds to step in.
And then another question, you guys might be able to answer this too. I know our attorney answered this too, and the question was, with this ordinance, does it allow for two separate ordinances, one for non-conforming and one for conforming? And
Wait a minute, state that again, what?
In this ordinance, how it's written right now, it allows for two.
The one, proposed one or the original? Which ordinance are you talking about?
When you say original, do you mean the one that's in
I
place
mean the
right
one
now?
that's in place right now.
Yeah, the one that's being proposed right now allows for two separate ordinances, basically two sets of rules, one for non-conforming mines and one for conforming mines. So we have the non-conforming mines adhere to these rules, the non-conforming mines only adhere to
Well,
these other four rules.
What you talk about non-conforming mines, first of all, if they're non-conforming, then they already have a cup. All right, so there's only 12 of them.
Okay, so I guess my question, that is a rhetorical question because we already got the answer to that, was, is there two separate sets of rules, one for non-conforming and one for conforming?
There's a set of rules for new mines.
Yep.
That would be for new permits.
Yep.
Any new mine is going to have to adhere to all of these new requirements.
Right.
We have these existing mines that the townships and the cities want us to protect and have them continue in business.
Yep.
That's why we backed off a little bit on these existing mines till we get them registered, find out who wants to be in business and what the activity is. And that's why we went with those four to start with, and you guys can look at it later if you want.
Right, and I guess that's what I'm saying. I know Attorney Yant had weighed in and said, yes, it is confirmed there is two separate sets of rules. The question that comes up that I get asked a lot is, why do we want to treat our mines differently? One mining this way, is it just as harmful if a new mine came in, or impactful if a new mine came in?
Justin, it's like the grandfathered in process. I mean, these
Right, but why do we
non-conforming
wanna
mines have
keep
been with
grandfathering in?
these non-conforming mines have been with us since in the 70s.
Yep, that's great, but
Yeah,
the question
now
then
you're,
is...
if they
is-
want to,
sure.
if they want to expand and you want to get a new permit, now you've got to meet all these new requirements, and that's fine. It's
Right,
whatever.
but I guess here's the question, and I know I've got an issue with grandfathering, and I know Jay Squires had mentioned that he had kind of had an issue with the whole grandfathering in thing as well. In the issue that I have is it goes back to the same theory that, well, if I started smoking in the 1940s, do I still have the right to smoke in a public building? No, because new regulations bring you up to compliance, and there's a reason for that. So that's the question. Do we want to continue to allow the non-conforming mines to be such loose regulations, or do we want to finally bring them up to regulations? And that's the question, and I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is, we have issues. If those issues were here in the 70s, do we just ignore those issues and keep trudging forward and say there's issues, we're going to keep going? So I guess that's the question is, do we want to finally, we have the opportunity to bring them into compliance where we feel it's safe for the people and for everything going around, do we want to take that opportunity right now to do that? And the question to that answer is yes, and we had the entire committee had agreed, yeah, we want to get a handle on non-conforming mines and bring them all into compliance and do that.
The committee agreed with you to do that, and
Yes.
that's what they agreed right here.
Yeah, but the question is, does this do
You
that?
want to go further, though.
What I'm saying is, does this do this? When you only allow them to adhere to four things, and setbacks isn't one of them. And I understand a mine that already exists can't pick up and move it an extra 300 feet to meet the setbacks, and that's why that provision was in there, that they don't have to mine, or they can mine, but just not any closer than what they currently are. So I understand why that was put in there, but that's the question: is blasting standards, all that kind of stuff isn't in this. So why would you not want them to adhere? Or if we have such a great ordinance and this is good, and for the new mines, it's going to be great for the new mines because it really does bring them into a safe level where we feel we can protect the citizens as well as allow the mining companies to continue business. The question is, why would those not also follow suit with the non-conforming mines?
Well, they do have to follow all federal and state standards for that, like MSHA, safety standards, blasting standards, they
Yep.
all have to follow that.
Yep.
Whether they're permitted or non-conforming. So,
Right.
stormwater permitting through MPCA, DNR, If a mine, whether it's non-conforming or permitted, has sediment runoff into a stream, you can bet DNR is gonna be
Right.
concerned about it. So they do have to meet all those state and federal standards.
But what they
Not
don't have,
exempt.
oh, go ahead.
They
Yep.
still have to meet those standards.
That's true. What they don't have to adhere to, though, is the pre-blasting surveys, blasting notification, control over adverse effects, investigation of complaints, blasting logs, storing of explosives,
That was all-
volume limits.
That was all taken care of by MNSHA, though.
But it's not, because we wanted to have in here that within 30 days, no less than 10 days before initial blasting, the operation will notify neighbors within a half mile of blasting with unreasonable efforts as described in subdivision 1, 5 below. So that's the question, is so now
But we did
we're
put in
saying-
that they have to follow all the MNSHA and standards put out by them, which also requires it. We actually repeated that.
But we don't have in here that they have to follow this. And that's the issue. Written notification to a company
Yeah.
neighboring within a half a mile of a blasting site. There's a surveys
You know,
to
but
include
this
recorded
is
through
actually
inspections
a
and
living
baselines.
document. We can always improve on it. We just wanted to start somewhere.
I know, but the question is, if you have the opportunity to improve on it now, why would you not take that opportunity?
But Justin, one of the things we talked about is, you know, if they're not, don't have a history of causing a problem in these areas right now, why go there? Let's start here. And if it's a problem, fine, we have to go back and address it. But let's start here. That's what we were at in the study committee.
Yep, yep. So we can start there and keep that prohibited language in there, and then start here, and then there
Now
would be
this,
an issue.
I mean, what's here is where the study committee wanted to start, with these 4 things and with this registration and with the reclamation plan.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you left that portion alone, and you say, okay, we'll leave the non-conforming portion alone, then
Well, we're adding these 4 things, though, yeah, of course.
I know, and that was my whole argument, is why are you
Yeah.
only adding these 4 things?
Well,
That
we
was
said
my
that's
entire
where we want to
argument then.
start, because you can always go on with more if you want. And there are other governing bodies watching these mines
Mhm.
besides Houston County.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my question then is, okay, then I guess we're at agreements then. Leave the non-conforming mines to where they are, but then just have the prohibited language so we don't have to worry about it getting out of hand.
No, put it in there when it gets out of hand. It's not been out of hand.
But why would you want to be reactive and not proactive? That's the problem. You wait till the accident happens
You
before you
have
put
to
in a
make that
stoplight.
choice.
I think
don't
we
support
just
that.
wanted to start here, and then with going through the registration process, bring it up to standards and address the situation there.
Yep. So then, like I
But we
said, okay,
voted it
so
down
then.
anyway, so.
Yep, so then, like I said, you have that in there with the non-conforming mines, and they continue business as usual, and then we don't have to worry about it getting out of hand, because you'd have that prohibited language in there that the study committee agreed on.
It's not business as usual if you make them setbacks that they already can't adhere to if they're
No,
already on
I'm
it.
talking about the last, number 8 of the
Okay.
prohibited activities. Leave that in there, and then you'll be just fine. And leave in there subdivision 3, under 2703, industrial minerals, mines, gases, and fluids, any sand, quartz, silica, crystals as defined Minnesota Statute 116C, .99, mine for uses other than construction and agricultural purposes. Leave that in there, and we don't have an issue.
But Minnesota Statute 116C99 doesn't define anything other than silica sand, so I don't know, you can't put that other stuff in there, reference that statute.
Yeah. Quartz or silica crystals as defined by 116.99. That's what you just said.
Yeah, 116C99 only
Yep.
defines silica sand.
That's right. That's what I'm saying right here.
Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't define sand, but anyway, fine,
But
whatever you
it
want.
defines silica crystals. That's,
It
that's the
defines
point.
silica sand
Right.
only.
Yep.
Sand,
Right,
not
and that's why it
silica
says,
It doesn't define silica crystals.
right, and that's why it says as defined, as defined.
It does not define it.
It does not
defines
define
silica
it.
sand.
You're kind of contradicting yourself. You say it doesn't define silica crystals, but it only defines silica crystals.
No, they're
It
not
only
saying
defines
that.
silica sand, Justin.
Right.
Read it, I mean,
Okay, I'll read the question one more time.
no, read the document, read the definition.
Yep, any sand, quartz, or silica crystals as defined.
No,
So it's any
no, no,
sand.
but the Minnesota
quartz,
statute. Do you
silica
have the
crystals
Minnesota statute?
As defined.
You have the Minnesota statute there?
No, I do not. I have, well, actually, I can take that back. I have the deal. I don't know if I got that or not. If you have it, I'm glad to share it with us.
That's maybe a moot point, but
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's a moot
yeah,
point, but
yeah.
I would, if you had that in there, I think you would appease a lot of people, and you'd have a lot of the issues go away, but when you allow,
if you had it in where, Justin?
I said if you had that language in there, like,
In where, exactly? In subdivision 3 here, you mean?
if you have the language, 2703, subdivision number 3, last sentence, if we leave the sentence in there, that the board sent for findings of fact to our county attorney, you'd have a lot of people that would be pleased.
Yeah, that's the ban. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'd have a lot of people pleased, but when you take that out and don't bring the non-conforming mines up to the rest of the new mining standards, then people are starting to have issues. Okay, it makes sense, right?
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Right, right. So that's what I'm saying. This
Leaving
could all
most
go
of
away
it.
and our lives would be a lot easier. We'll just pass a document that we all voted for to send for findings of
And
fact.
so what additional restrictions do you want to put on these non-conforming mines?
What additional restrictions?
Additional things do you want to add there to non-conforming mines, exactly?
Well, I'm saying they should adhere to all the standards that a new mine should. What, you know, I mean, why, if you say, okay, well, we know that there might be some issues here, but we're just gonna ignore those. You know,
That isn't anything we discussed in the study committee. We never went there in the study committee.
We never went there.
That
We
you
never-
put that many conditions on here.
we said we wanted to bring them up to get a handle on them. And we
Yeah,
said we
we
want to
do.
bring them
We
into
do. And-
compliance.
and we
So
felt
bringing them
that
into
this was how
compliance
you
would be
start.
compliance with everything, not just compliance with 4 things.
But
So
we-
when you say bring them to
Okay.
compliance, me and
Well-
most probably other people, compliance means
Yeah.
following all rules, not just some rules.
Well, we all agreed we need to get moving on the non-conforming mines. We agreed
Correct.
on that, and we
Yep.
agreed this was the pathway to do it.
Well,
We
some
thought
of
it was
but
a
yes.
start. Well, it was a start.
Yep, so it's a start, but what I'm saying is, it's a start at bringing them into compliance, but it's not bringing them into compliance.
Well, that's the decision you guys are going to have to make.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and that's my, and that's,
I think one of the
That's
things
my
we
issue.
did here when we were going through that public comment, both from the written and from the oral comments that we took, is that setbacks were something that was going to be very difficult on our existing mines. You know, we have setbacks from property lines, we have setbacks from residences, we have setbacks from zoning districts, we have the existing mines that are sitting there could not meet it, that they were already out of compliance, and that was something I think the study committee and planning commission heard loud and clear, is why we were gonna run into really a difficult situation with trying to bring them into compliance using setbacks. And that's why.
the verbiage is in there, that they don't have to, they can stay where they're at, they just can't come closer, and that's why that was there to protect that.
Well, yeah, some of those setbacks too would almost take half their operations, remove half their operations out of the operation, which could be considered a taking. It could be argued that way. You know, I'm not giving a legal opinion on that. I don't know.
No, but you're right, and that's why we put the provisions in there for the setbacks. So that's what I'm saying.
Right, no, but if you adopt all those setbacks for the existing non-conforming mines, we've heard loud, and that would really curtail what the existing mines are doing right now.
Right.
And we've heard loud and clear from the townships and municipalities not to mess with them. They don't want increases in rock and sand. They
Yep.
want it for construction.
Right.
So we figured this was a reasonable place to start, and let's see what we end up with. If we see as a county that you need to go further, Justin, I think you can. But I think this is a good place to start.
Here's the problem, though. Do the rest of the commissioners, everybody want to go through this rigmarole again? That's the question. You have the
Only if you
opportunity to
make
do
it
now.
into a rigmarole.
Yeah.
Well, it's not us that makes it into a rigmarole. When the people are demanding something and they show up, I don't have control over that.
Well,
if
do you have-
people say, hey, wait a second, we don't want this to happen, they're going to show up whether we want them to or not. So, they're speaking loud and clear. The question is, do you attack this problem now, or do you wait and be reactive and say, well, something happened, now we got to do something about it? That's the question, And I understand the setbacks issue, and that's why we put that language in there, so non-conforming mines don't have to adhere to the setbacks, because you can't just up and pick up a mine and move it. So what I'm saying is, without those, anything other than those setbacks and stuff, why would they not be in compliance with everything else?
Because it would probably put half of them out of business, Justin.
Speculation, again,
Yeah,
you don't have the
right.
setbacks.
No, it's
what
probably
is it?
not. It depends on what setbacks you're talking about. But if you're talking about all the setbacks to the trout stream and everything else, they have some non-conforming mines have some rights.
Right, that's right. And we just got done talking that we have specific language in there that says that they are, I guess, excluded from the setbacks because you can't up and pick it up. So I'm saying everything other than that, what would be the issue?
I'm not sure, other than the setbacks. So you're talking about the black. What else then do you specifically want in there besides setbacks then?
Well, you've excluded only 4 things. Like I said, you've got under the section, and it talks about only density, volume, size, and land reclamation. So that leaves everything else.
Okay,
in.
under performance standards, okay.
So let's go under under 2708 and 2710. So 2708 starts on page Yep, page 7, general performance standards. Number 1, general requirements, compliance. Mining operations are conducted in compliance with the laws of state and federal regulations, especially as related to safety standards ordinances of Houston County, including future amendments in the compliance with the furtherance of approved reclamation plan in the affected land. Number 2, operation of equipment. Number 3, blasting. Number 4, pre-blasting survey. Number 5, blasting notification. B. C, control of adverse effects. D, investigation of complaints. E, blasting logs. F, storage. Then 5, volume limits. Number 2, vegetation, removal of trees and shrubs. Number 2, weeds and noxious vegetation. Number 3, preservation of existing trees and ground cover. Subdivision 3, access, jurisdiction, avoid residential streets, access signage, spillage in the roadways, dust. Number 4, water resources, draining interference prohibited, surface and surface runoff quality, water quality and quantity. Number 3, degradation of surface. Number 5, safety barriers, ponded water and safety barriers. Number 6, screening. Number 7, sitting and location requirements. Number 1 of that, subsection 7, prohibited in a district. 2, residentially zoned. 3, anywhere people congregate.
Excuse me,
well, we're going to keep going because I'll finish this.
Okay.
Residential structures, size requirement, and density. That's just under number 8. So when you say that the only thing out of all of those that they have to adhere to is the density, volume, and reclamation, that throws all of that other stuff out. That's my issue.
Okay. Now, I personally don't see a big problem going through it, all that stuff. The problem is, one of the big problems is a setback.
Right.
Setback. So let's go there.
Let's we already said we can throw the setbacks out.
So
we can't
under
control
siting
mine.
and location requirements,
That's your setback.
Where are you at?
page
Hold on a
11,
second.
number 7.
Page 6, number 7.
No, page 11, number 7.
Okay.
So you're saying not implement those.
Well, what I'm saying is you, and I think you agreed with me on this one in the committee.
Whose that? I don't know whose that is.
Oh,
Not mine.
hit the side button on it. They're using that for hearing in the back rooms. What I'm saying is you have siting and location requirements. We know that if you put in a 1,000-foot requirement from something and the mine's already within 750 feet, you can't do that because then it takes them out. So we know that can't happen. So what we're saying is after all of those setbacks, we have that provision that says that they can continue mining, but they just cannot go any closer than what they currently are. Okay. So the question is, everything above subdivision 7, how this is worded, they do not have to follow. That's my issue. Do you allow
Okay,
that
so
to
what
take
are you
place?
saying? You'd like to see that in there? Is that what you're saying?
To see, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so then we're up to 7. So continuing forward from 7, what are you saying?
Okay, you mean continue after 7?
Yeah, after 7.
Excuse me, so then you go to subdivision 2710.
Wait a minute now. 27.
Yep, 2710, which is going to be on page 14. And that's your land reclamation of minerals and extraction mining. And they have to adhere to all of that as how it's readed.
Right now they have to adhere to that.
Yep, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so I'm saying that right there, they have to follow everything under that section.
Right.
But they don't have to follow everything under 2708.
Right,
Only-
we
only
discussed
one
that
thing.
at length, but.
Right.
And the main thing were the setbacks.
Yep.
So you're saying that you would like to see everything else in, you would like to see subsection 1 through 6 in there, but not 7 necessarily. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'd like to see everything, but we
I
know
know
that
you
you
would.
can't put
I know.
subsection 7 because it's going to interfere and shut down. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I'm saying.
All right, so. Other than the density thing, we have that in there yet.
The density? Say
Number
one more
9.
way.
Number what?
Say that again?
Oh, no, we don't have the density, I'm sorry. We have this, we have the size requirement, though, that they can't, number 8 is in there for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and density, they can't expand close to each other, yeah.
Right. But see, that's the problem. When you talk about like density, it says from 1 mile from another sand, existing mines wishing shall expand no closer than their current mining boundary. Now the question is, does that, that's from one to another, but does that, there's no language in there that says you can't go closer to a neighbor's property. It just says to keep it within, from mine to mine. So what keeps them from going up? If the only thing in there that they have to adhere to on the setbacks is just the density portion, it allows you to mine right up to your neighbor's property. So that's the question. You're throwing out all of that.
That issue is addressed in the reclamation plan. as these reclamation plans start coming in, they're gonna be reviewed, probably by the Soil and Water District office. And if your reclamation plan details going right up to the property line, you're gonna have to tell me and the soil and water technicians how you're gonna hold that soil from eroding from the neighbors.
So you'll be allowed to do it as long as you tell them how it's gonna be done.
During that review, you're gonna have to answer that question. Okay, what are you gonna do to keep the neighbor's land from eroding? The answer should be, number one, I'm gonna stay back away from it.
Right, but then the problem is you get a variance to go closer. So how do you?
Variance would have to be based on some criteria. Number one, does it fit the reclamation plan? Is that reclamation plan reviewed and is it okayed by the soil and water office?
Right.
So if that answer is no, you cannot approve the variance.
But then you can get an after the fact variance if you go too close.
After the fact doesn't have to be granted.
Exactly. So that's the question is, you don't have it in writing that you can't do it. So it needs to be in writing. If we feel that a new mine, you have to stay 100 feet back from your property lines, then why would a non-conforming mine not have to stay that 100 feet back? They can mine right up to the neighbor's property, but a new mine can't. There's some inconsistencies, and that's the problem. People don't like inconsistencies.
The consistency is the reclamation plan. They need to be submitted.
Right,
But past county boards haven't put that as a priority.
I understand
They
that.
haven't allowed staff to do that.
But the
That
problem
they
is
do
you
in
have
the
the
future.
reclamation standard that says, oh, we're going to mine up to the neighbor's property as long as we slope it at such and such degree and seed it. You're still allowing it to happen. So how do you guarantee that? Now, it's great to say we're going to slope it at that, and all of a sudden you get a rain and it didn't happen, and all of a sudden some of the neighbor's property slides down the hill with it, and you go, oops, sorry, we thought it was going to happen. How do you prevent that from happening? The only way to prevent it is to keep a big enough distance that it can't happen. You see
You
that?
slope it and you seed it. Nothing, those types of things happen every year.
That's right. So-
Farmers deal with that with waterway construction, with pond construction. That's what you deal with heavy rains. So you fix it.
That's right. So if you go to the neighbor's property, you're not allowing that cushion to allow that to happen. There's got to be a safety barrier that if that happens, it doesn't impede on the neighbor's property. You can't put it on the neighbor's property, then it slopes and say, well, it just happens. That's part of nature. It just happens. You got to have that setback so that if it does happen, you allow a cushion. So that's the question. How do you, you're telling a non-conforming mine, you can go right up to it, and if the neighbor's property goes in the water, that's nature. But a new mine, well, you got to stay back because we got to allow a buffer. How do you stay consistent?
With the reclamation plan.
I know that, but the reclamation plan says you can go right up to the neighbor's property. So how do you keep that from happening?
Not an approved one, I would bet, not an approved one.
You would bet, but you don't know that because it's not written down. We can't go off of speculation.
Okay, neither can you. So
That's right. So I got to go off of data. That's why I want it in here, so it's documented in here, so I have something to go by. Right now, it is speculation, and I can't handle that.
It's been fixed. We've had situations where things have been fixed. And life goes on.
I know, but that's being reactive and not proactive. Well, it's been fixed. Why did we even allow it to have to be fixed? Why couldn't we stop it before it happens?
Because we haven't pushed the reclamation plan issue. Now, I hope we do.
Right, but that's the other thing. I mean,
That's
we've
being
never done it.
proactive.
We hope we do, but if the board decides not to push it or it doesn't get pushed, we don't have staffing to do it, it doesn't get done, and then we're back to square one. How do you assure that it happens?
Well, then you can't assure. You just told me how.
Right. So what you're saying right now is we can't assure that. So,
Not without reclamation plans, but we can with a reclamation plan.
right, but how do we assure those reclamation plans are done and followed and carried out? We already know that we haven't done it currently.
We get them reviewed. We kind of change our priorities here. If that's a priority of the county, I would hope they put some emphasis on following through with that.
That's right.
Let's
But the
get these
question is, we always hear
reclamation
about,
plans coming in, let's review them.
right,
okay?
but we
Let's
always
do
hear
it.
about how budgets are so tight, we don't have time to hire, or we don't have money to hire somebody else, and then all of a sudden it's, well, we don't have time to do that, and it falls to the wayside. So how do you do that? Do we hire somebody else? Well, now it's going back in the backs of the taxpayers, which is what I've warned a lot of people about, is that this industry comes in and it's already adversely affecting the backs of the taxpayers. How do you keep that from happening?
This industry you're talking about is already here, Justin. I mean, these are our non-conforming mines that are not causing problems.
That's right.
We want to get started to get it, but you're presupposing lots of problems.
So here's the bottom line, the root of this entire cause is the frac sand mining industry. We would not be here if it was not for this industry coming in. Look at what it has done so far. Technically, we don't have any approved frac sand mining operations. There is a moratorium, so they shouldn't be going on. So the issue is, when you have something like this happen, that has divided this county, pitted neighbor against neighbor, look at the turnout of all the people that are here on this issue. We have now the mining operations that are currently existing are going to be affected because of new rules and regulations that nobody even thought of doing about prior to this industry coming in. So now allow it so that we can continue to have this happening. I guess that's where a lot of people are feeling is this is not a good thing. It's already going back, and we're talking about possibly going back in the backs of the taxpayers if all of a sudden we got to hire more staff to monitor an issue that really wasn't an issue until this came in. That's why I'm saying, commissioners, you have to put in the language to prohibit it. Let's go back to our way of life. Let's go back to how things were. The mining companies do their jobs. We get our aggregate. People are friendly with their neighbors. We don't have to worry about harmful effects or the roads. So that's the issue, and that's why I say, you've heard it. I promise you, your life will not get any easier from this point on if you do not put it in here. This is the tip of the iceberg. So why not pass the ordinance that we have? You don't have to worry about the non-conforming mines. If you feel it's safe and the commissioners feel it's safe, let it go. But you got to put in that prohibited language. People aren't going to be happy, and this industry has not been friendly to us as of yet. We've all experienced it.
What industry has frac sand?
Yep.
What have they done to you?
What have they done? So you've got neighbors that are now not friends with neighbors. You've got people that are threatening.
You can't help but laugh at stupid people. Judy, come on.
Say, Justin.
Yes, Dan.
I thought that I understood you just a minute ago to say that if you had underperformance standards, if you had compliance, operation equipment, blasting, pre-blasting survey, blasting notification, control of adverse effects, investigation of complaints, blasting logs, storage, volume limits, all that, right up to 7, that you thought that would be a good thing, and then you recognize that we can't put these setbacks in it, but now you're arguing for the setbacks.
Well, I'm arguing that there's some setbacks that you can't when you talk about density from one to another, but that's the question is, I've always said be consistent, be consistent. Why should they not with all? I've made several motions
Because
now.
with a new mine, Justin,
I
when you're
understand
looking
that,
at a
but what I'm
site,
saying-
you can put all these conditions on a new location very easily.
That's right, and that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's what my motion was, that they should adhere to all the standards. If you want to exclude a certain amount of them, you can't move it.
Okay,
That's
which
one
ones
thing.
could you exclude? Which ones would you exclude?
Well, you've got the issue there with density, and you're right. If you have two that are right next to each other, you can't move them. So there's going to be the density issue. That's going to be there. You can't. You
All
got to
right,
stay a mile
we
apart.
have that in
Hold
there.
on.
We have it in there.
Hold on. So what I'm saying is, you've got 2 mines. They're within 3/4 of a mile each other.
Yeah.
2 more mines that are, a mile apart or 2 miles apart. Okay. So you've got the issue where you
Okay,
you
but
gotta
first
be
of
more
all,
than a mile apart.
on your
Yeah, hold on,
hypothetical,
hold on.
no,
This-
listen, but in your hypothetical situation there, you're talking about these mines right here, then you're talking about 2 more mines.
If you let me finish, I'll wrap it up and you'll
Okay.
understand where I'm
Okay.
going with this. So
Okay.
just listen.
All right.
So what I'm saying is, I understand these the mine that's 3/4 of a mile apart, that you can't pick them up and move them.
Right.
So you'd be in violation of the density.
Right.
So we understand that issue has to be resolved, and it's in there. It says that you can continue to mine as long as you don't mine any closer than that 3/4 mile setback that you currently have.
Right.
Now, with the density, it has to stay a mile apart. So you can't take that out and say, well, we want to open up a new mine and bring it in. Okay, so all new mines have to adhere to that new standard where they have to stay a mile apart, and that's totally fine. So that setback makes sense. I understand the setbacks that say, like, if you are, okay, the new setback is you got to be 1,320 feet from a house. Okay, the old one was 1,000. So I understand the mine that's there that's at 1,010 feet from a house. I understand that the same provision should work for that as works for the density. You can't just pick up and mine it. If you allow it to happen, then you'd be in violation. So it's those that I understand are there. The problem is if you allow the expansion on the backside and they've said, hey, we want to take 40 acres and there's a house right there, do you allow them to go right up to that neighbor's property because it doesn't say they can't? So there's certain setbacks into that work, there's certain setbacks into that don't work, and I understand that and everybody else understands that as well. So the question is, do you allow them just to not have any setbacks, or should you have them adhere to certain setbacks? So if the new ordinance says you gotta stay 1,320 away and you're already a mile away, say they've got their perimeter and where their mining's right here, do you allow them to go all the way up to the neighbor's house, or do they stay that new 1,320 away? Well, they should stay that new 1,320 away. But if they're already within that, I understand you can't shut them down. So there's certain setbacks that work and certain setbacks that don't work. But right now, we're throwing all of them out. So is that right? Does that make sense?
I think you answered your own question there. You're asking if they expand, do they have to comply with the setback standard, which is yes. Now, if it's an existing mine, and they are already within that setback, you go by the mine boundary. If that's within a certain distance, it doesn't matter. It's non-conforming, they have rights. But you explained it and you kind of answered your own question there, that yes, if you do encroach with an expansion, you do need a new permit.
Right, but if they have already right in their plan that they are going to mine this 40 acres, they can mine that 40 acres and it's not considered an expansion.
Right.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, if there is a house that is right there, and they can mine right up to that neighbor's house, should you allow that? So they're not expanding, but they can still encroach on the neighbor's property. You see that loophole? Is that allowed? Right now it is. So that's my question, is do we need to get a handle so we're consistent? And that's the impasse.
Is that the only impasse?
Oh gosh, no, there's plenty more.
Okay, well, I mean, if we could resolve something here today, it would be nice, but if we can't, we can't. You know,
Well, we're
but
gonna have to do something, because we got the moratorium coming up, and I know all the commissioners want to have something before that, so.
What's
We
that?
do have an ordinance in the book.
Right.
Yeah, and we know that it's, outdated and not as good, and that's why we spent all this time, so.
Well, certainly from a planning commission standpoint, it'd be a lot easier if we had the ordinance in place. I mean,
The
if we
new one,
do.
you mean?
What?
The new one, you mean?
This
This one.
The one that we sent you. I mean, to deal with any new applications, whether or not we get new
Right.
applications. I
This
don't
is
know.
not a bad ordinance at all, not whatsoever.
Yeah.
It limits any kind of industrial mining, to the 20-acre size, and extractions to 60,000 cubic yards, which is just it's a far cry from what any silica sand mining firm is looking for. It just isn't.
Well, that's speculation, because we're not, and I apologize, but it's true, you're not in the mining industry, so to talk about what they're looking for would kind of be a difficult situation here to defend. So we don't know, but again, it's speculation that
Yeah, I
they're
think
not
this
looking for that.
whole thing can.
And the issue is that, you're allowing 60,000, which is an arbitrary number. We don't have anything in there that talks about how many you should have. You've got Fillmore County that has no non-conforming mines, and Fillmore County also has a density that you only allow 5 frac sand mines. Here, you can have as many as you want as long as you stay under 60. So what I'm saying is, let's take the problem off the table. Let's get rid of the problem. The problem is the industry, the frac sand mining industry. Prohibit it, and let's move on with our lives and get back to where we were at. If you allow it, I promise you, like I said, it's not going to get any easier. And we've all seen, and especially a few of you have seen, what happens when you start to go against what the people's wishes are. Do you want to continue to go down that road?
So Justin, even if you make the changes in this document that we were just talking about, that's still not what you would support.
Put that sentence back.
Yeah, that sentence needs to stay in there.
Subdivision
No,
3.
but other than that sentence, you were talking about the setbacks and all that. That's just part of it. That's not your whole issue. I mean, if they went ahead with some of these, performance standards that you were talking about, that still would not be enough to convince you to support this document.
No, the language, the sentence that has to be in there, that the study committee had agreed
Okay.
upon at the last meeting,
Okay.
that the Board of Commissioners sent the findings of fact to Sam Yon for, that sentence must stay in there. Everything else is above and beyond.
Okay. then
But
I
that
think-
essentially is a ban.
Yep,
That sentence.
it's a prohibition. Yep.
Not going there.
And
Yeah,
according
see,
to our
if-
attorneys and MCIT,
Say, Mary,
an
would you like
ordinance
to
is the
comment
proper
on
way.
statute 145A for us, and just kind of maybe talk about what the board statutory, rules that we have to adhere by, that we'd have to follow?
Well, I can just speak to the, it's the Minnesota Local Public Health Act, and that was presented in the county attorney's findings and the conclusion part, just as the Community Health Board. There are, under 145A, powers and duties that the board shall protect against environmental health hazards by addressing aspects of the environment that propose risks to human health.
That would mean processing,
And we're not.
extraction and processing.
And that would also mean dust control and water
Right,
control and all that.
right.
And those are the things that this industry's bringing in, that why would you want to allow it and then try and make rules and then try and adhere to those rules and enforce those rules? Why not just get rid of the problem in and of itself? You're making it harder by trying to have regulations and then follow the regulations.
No, it's
And I'll tell you this, here's the
better
other
with an
thing.
ordinance.
Here's the other thing, in the purpose of the mineral extraction mining that you guys are proposing, let me read the purpose of this real quick, because this kind of gives an indication, and like I said, we want to be consistent, and people respect you when you're consistent on what you do. So let's be consistent here. Purpose 2701. The purpose of this section in mineral extraction is to protect natural landscape, okay, from excessive excavation and mining activities, boom, right there. Protect water resources, aquifers, streams, and rivers from excessive contamination and appropriation, again, right there. Minimize soil erosion. Protect and preserve agricultural land and farming activities. Monitor and control extraction of natural mineral and material resources. Provide for the excavation and mining of minerals and material uses for road maintenance, farming, and construction. Industrial is not listed. Minimize land use conflicts. Minimize and prevent adverse public infrastructural impacts such as highways and all of that. Preserve the natural beauty and aesthetic values, including scenic byways of the county, established recreational sites, and provide the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens in the county. Nowhere in there does it talk about industrial, and it says right there, our purpose is to protect the infrastructure, the people's health, the farming, all of that. So
If that doesn't say prohibit frac sand mining, I don't know what does.
So staying consistent to the purpose, that's the only logical way to do it.
And I think we're doing it, with this ordinance, we've still got to allow, sand extraction.
You said
Still
that, you said, well,
has to
nothing,
be
you
allowed.
said nothing's happened, why do anything? But you want to wait till something happens and then try and do something? You can't. You can't fix groundwater that's been contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, you know what karst geology is?
Yep,
That's what
I
we
do.
live on.
Yep, I do.
It's like a sponge. It's got
And I
holes in
really
it.
feel that we're
How can you-
regulating
how can
it
you-
with this
how can you
ordinance. I
truthfully feel
don't
like
think we need
this-
to take from people.
But you wouldn't be
That's
taking
not a
from
taking.
anybody. It's a regulation, just like a lot of regulations. I've used this adage before, and I'll use it again. You have the right to grow corn. You have the right to grow soybeans. You don't have the right to grow marijuana. So are you taking because you're not allowing somebody to harvest an illegal drug? No. There's reasons, because there's health effects associated with it. You can mine sand. You can mine aggregate. It's the quartz silica crystals that are the issue that have the potential for health effects.
And that's
so
in
that's
everything.
the question.
In
That's in all
everything,
sand.
Right. So then do you allow
So
it to be
then are we
taken
gonna
out
pretty
in
soon
millions
be
of
saying-
yards, processed?
We're not
and
talking
no.
millions of yards.
No.
We're
Really?
not talking
Have you
millions
seen
of
what happened in
yards.
Wisconsin?
What's 60? Okay, here's a question. What's 60 times 200?
What does 200
1.2
have to
million.
do with it?
Well, if you had 118 mines that say, hey, we want to
Is
do
there
this.
room in our county for this many mines in the area that we already have?
Of course there is.
mapped
No,
out?
Our county's
no,
860,
there's
what is it,
not.
860 square miles?
450 miles you can get in this county.
Sir,
Yeah.
come on, let's go.
Okay, good.
So here's the issue.
Mike, get out.
Mike.
Fields, get out.
Yeah, well, this ordinance does not protect me. What about my setbacks?
Oh, let's go. Come on, let's go.
Setbacks.
Let's go.
I'm gonna leave too. I agree with
Robin, can we ask to leave
I
too?
want 96% of the people were for.
I guess my problem with a ban is that it can be overturned.
Well, it very well
Readily,
could be.
readily.
Well, it could be, but again,
And
we're
then what
basing
have
it
you
on
got? What have
speculation.
you got?
Right, but you're basing on speculation. And in fact,
So is your
So is
idea
your
that,
stuff,
yeah,
based
everything that
on
you're saying is a speculation.
speculation.
what am I based on speculation? That it's on the
That-
MSDS
that-
sheets that the Minnesota Department of Health has already ruled that it had potential
That
for
we're going to
public
have a
health?
flood of silica sand extractions. That we're going to have a flood of miners coming in and
Sure, but
tearing it
my
up.
speculation, if I am wrong, what happens? We're all safe. But if I'm right and there is a flood, then what happens? That's the problem, Steve. You're on the side that says, well, it may not happen, so we'll just potentially maybe allow it. And if it does,
If it
I'm
can
saying,
happen, we can regulate it.
how can you regulate it? You can't
Yeah, we
regulate
can.
it with this ordinance.
This is a living document.
Mhm.
It can be
Sure.
It may not be
corrected.
perfect.
So that's the question. Do you all want to go through this again? Do you want the thousands of emails and phone calls and the public hearings to go through all of this when you can deal with it now? You can solve this problem today and go on with your lives and not deal with it. But I promise you, people are upset. You've seen it. How many people have you kicked out? People are upset. It's not going to make your life any
from a lot of
easier.
people that don't want to ban them, they want regulation.
Again, I need to have documents and
I can't believe
documentation to those
there's
numbers.
already-
You say that
there's
they don't.
people-
Like,
I can't believe you heard
three,
from a lot.
we have three right now. We have three
I had-
polling
I
data
had
from
two
the
at
Houston
6:30
County News,
this morning.
two of them, one from the Rochester Post Bulletin, and they all were over 90% that don't. You have a public hearing where 92% of the people don't. I have data to support my decision. You say that you do. You have no documentation. Show me a polling sample that shows that, and maybe I can agree with you. But I don't have that in front of me.
Where do
I
we
had
go,
two
you know,
calls this morning. One was for and one said, don't ban it, regulate it.
I had six
Just
that
this
were for
morning.
banning. So, I mean, we can go back all day long.
Yeah.
okay, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? I mean, we've lost in vote. I mean, it's off the table.
Well, I guess I just question the commissioners and why you want to put the people in jeopardy.
I don't
Why do you
intend
want to go
to.
against?
We're not.
That's why I'd
we're
rather
not
see
doing
this
that.
ordinance
That's
put
a
in place.
false accusation.
Mayor Michelle, can you please answer the question, is there potential health risks with the frac sand mining industry?
But we all know that there is.
If,
Yes,
if
you
it's
just said that you
processed,
didn't. You just said you didn't. I just said you're putting the people in jeopardy, and you said, no, I'm not.
the processing is what really creates the dust.
No, it's not.
No.
It's the
Loading.
excavation and stockpiling and moving on trucks that do, Steve. You know, and I
Right.
apologize, it doesn't seem like the three commissioners have an intimate knowledge of your business. We've had 3 years to look at this, study it, we have the ordinance in front of us, and we still don't even know what does what. You know, and I'm not trying to get on everybody's case, but this is a big deal. This is a historical event, one that will stay with you forever. You can look like a villain or you can look like the hero. People look up to you if you go out and protect them. 90%, over 90% of the people want you to do this and do the right thing. You go against the 8%, that's not good. That's not good. You have a time to be the tip of the spear. We have the old, and everybody knows the poem, 2 roads diverge in a yellow wood. I took the road less traveled by it, it made all the difference. This is where we are at. We can take the cowardice way and say, we know that we can go down here, it's the easy road. Or we can be the tip of the spear, blaze the trail, set forth something that nobody else has ever done. You have that power to do that here today. Today to do that. And you're opting to not do that. That's not leadership. That's cowardism. Stand up for the people. Do what's right, what the people are demanding for.
We are at an impasse. I don't think there's any sense in
So you're
going
gonna
any
allow
further
it
with this at all.
So then you're going to allow it to revert back to the
We
original
have our
ordinance?
original ordinance in place. We could improve it with this ordinance.
You know, here's the problem. You know, I've got an issue here, and you know, nobody wants to go back to the original ordinance. And I know, Teresa, you've had several emails that say that you want to try and get a handle on this, and the old ordinance is outdated.
I believe in getting a handle on it, and I think our draft that our study group worked on does get a very good handle on it.
But you'd
Yes,
be
I
willing
do.
to go back to the original ordinance.
No, I
We haven't
really
got a
didn't.
choice.
I really would have
Not
voted
willingly.
for the one we got from the planning commission.
Right, but the
And I
problem
really
is,
felt it was a good one, and it was a start.
but the problem is, I got an email from you that you said, I feel the proposed mining ordinance is a good, strong ordinance for years
I
to
do.
come. It regulates and restricts, but does not ban. And you said, I was and will vote against the word ban, or is against my ethics and would allow to go back to the old ordinance, which is not to get a handle on non-conforming minds at all. So you admit that you would willingly go back on your ethics to go back to the original ordinance if you don't get your way.
But my
That's
ethics
not
say
good.
I cannot vote for a ban.
But the question is, why? There's plenty of evidence to support why you should protect the people. People demand it. We have findings of fact from our attorney that even supports that document and those decisions.
It also supports this ordinance.
Yeah.
It does not. It
Yeah, it
supports the
does.
ban. It supports the ban language.
No, it
And
supports-
in there, he has several points in there that
Mm-hmm.
support the ban language. So that's the question is, you have a findings of fact that support the document that was submitted, but now you don't want to go for that. You have the opportunity, and we have plenty of documentation, data, and legal ease to be able to do this. We can do this by law. We can put in legislative zoning if we feel this is going to protect the people, the health, safety, and well-being, and the environment of this county. You can do that. You're well within your rights
It's
to do
just
it.
too big a loose end. I know we can do it.
think
I
this
know
is
we
a-
can do it.
Is very
Right, so why not
regulated.
do it? If you know you can do it, do it. Let's do it. If somebody wants to try it and they want to go to court over it, and it looks like you're going to fail, you can always pull it out and go back to what you are right now.
Yes, you can.
But you're not going to even try. You're not even going to try. That's the problem. I mean, at least try.
What are the chances of going,
Sam said it in his response to us the other day. And Sam, and if you will, I'm going to read one of your responses.
you can't read a
When we
judge's
talked
mind.
When we talked about, and all the commissioners had gotten this, can the frac sand be passed? Can the ban of frac sand be passed that would both legally and defend in court? And you said a ban can legally be passed on a 4-5 vote. Okay. You said in here, however, the chances of the ban in particular being upheld in Minnesota courts is unknown to this writer. So Sam's saying, I don't know the outcome. Can you do it? Yes, we don't know the outcome. So the question is, do you back down because you're scared of what an outcome might be? I mean, if that be the case, you know, human civilization would have only stayed in one area because they're too scared to go out and explore unknown territory. So, you know, why would we not want to explore that possibility? Especially when we've got the majority of people saying, we do not want it. I mean, that's the question. Is democracy alive and well, or is it a dictatorship that you get into office and you say, I'm going to do what I want and screw the people that elected me, I'm here now. And that's what we're showing today. So do you side with the people that elected you, or do you say, screw you guys, you elected me, I'm here to do what I want to now? That's the question.
I'm trying to do the right thing.
Right,
The
but what is the right thing?
The right thing is to regulate. We've been
Right
told
thing
that
is not
time and
to
time
regulate.
again by our attorneys.
We have been.
By
Yeah.
our attorneys, our attorney just said you can prohibit it.
Yes.
You also
Exactly.
said
So-
it's better to
And it's very,
regulate.
unlikely that it's defensible.
He didn't say it's
An
unlikely.
ordinance,
He said
an
it's
ordinance
uncharted waters.
is.
He said it's uncharted waters.
Mhm.
You don't know that. You do not know that. You know, you're trying to put a cause in here not to do a ban, and you're saying, well, we shouldn't do what the people want. You will never go wrong if you side with what the people want you to do. There's a majority of people. It's not 51%. It's over 90%. 90%. I mean, is that ringing in the head or not?
Well, it's not 90% of the population. I just-
How do you
I
know that?
that.
Do you have a polling sample? We have 3 polling
I know.
samples.
You don't have a
polling
po-
data.
Those
polling
aren't-
data. I had asked to put out a survey, and you guys all shot it down. I asked to put it on the referendum. You all shot it down. Even made a motion. You all shot it down. You had the opportunity to know exactly how much of the
When did you do
population,
that?
but you didn't.
Yeah, when did you do that?
Last year, when we had the elections coming up, I said, should we put this on the referendum?
No,
We
you
were
didn't.
told we
No.
couldn't by the state, though.
Sure. So you can't. So now how do you know that data? You have to have polling samples. We have 3 of them. 2 in the Houston County News, 1 in the Rochester Post Bulletin. All of them were 90% or above. We have people coming up and showing you the public hearings. Not less than 90% at any public hearing has been here. That's polling data. When you cannot go out and get an actual survey, the next best thing is polling data. This is polling data. It is not a one-time deal.
Who conducted the poll?
Houston County News did 2 of them. The Rochester Post Bulletin did 1.
Did one? And was there a Z93 one that was done this,
Not that I'm
just
aware of.
recently? Somebody was mentioning that there was one just done recently,
Yep.
and it went the other way.
So
In other
in-
words.
I think we have on file over 400 signatures of people that want to ban it.
Mhm.
On file.
And that's true, and you know, and it has to beg the question: did we have anybody that brought in a petition saying we want to allow it? You didn't. I mean, that kind of speaks volumes. When you have 92% of people, everybody has a right to be at this meeting. So that's fair game. Nobody said, well, we're only going to allow this side. So this is an even playing field. The number of people for it have the equal opportunities as the number of people against it. That's why this is considered an accurate polling data. So if you have 92%, 92% are the people that showed up. Everybody has a right to.
Is there a way of putting more restriction on this?
Well, possibly, but, one of the points that I run into, Justin, is that when you say, do you want to ban, everybody's going to say yes. Then
Why
you
would
stop
you
and
say
you
that?
talk,
If they
then you
don't
stop
want it,
and
they would
talk,
say yes.
excuse me, you stop and talk to them for a few minutes, you explain what the county's up against, how complicated this process is. Then I've had a number of phone calls, people say, Dan, we need a ban. And I said, okay, have you read the document? Do you realize what we're up against? Do you realize what we're trying to accomplish? No, I haven't. I haven't taken the time. I just think we should ban it. I said, well, let's go through the facts. Let's go through what we're up against here with our non-conforming minds and what we're trying to do. We put a volume cap on them. We put density on them. We put all of that. When you get done talking to most people after 30 minutes, they say, I didn't understand all that. And I had several people say, I think you guys are doing an awesome job trying to tackle this issue. And that's what we did for 8 months in the study committee, Justin.
That's right, and you
Yeah.
use terms like most and all that. Again, you don't have data. Somebody that you might have talked to, but now you're going to sit back here and tell me that 92% of the people are ignorant and have not studied this.
No, I'm
a
not
lot
s-
of these people have been at these board meetings for
I know
3
these-
years. Have been
I
at
know
the
these
study
people
committee.
have. I know
So
they're
to
well
say that
informed.
these people don't understand what's in this document and don't understand the implications
Justin,
and the
I'm
facts.
talking to you about when you go out down the street and
Yep.
you just conduct a poll.
Sure, that's
The
right.
people in this room are very well informed.
You go down the street and you conduct a poll, and what happens? This is what happens. 92% of the people show up in support of what they feel is accurate. You have no polling data to
No,
show
I
how many
don't.
people you go down on
Yeah.
the street and talk to.
No.
I go down on the street and it's the exact opposite.
Okay.
So now we're going to contradict each other. So we have to go by facts and data. This is a fact. 92% of the people. Look at this room. Look at this room, and you turn around. There's a lot of people here that know what's going on and are coming out here to voice their opinion because they understand what is going on. They understand this document. They know this document has flaws. They know that. If it was the other way, then why aren't these people in here saying regulate, regulate, regulate? They're not. They want to
I
ban.
have heard a lot of people say regulate.
Yeah.
I don't-
Again,
I don't
we've heard
hear
a
my
lot. What's a
polls-
lot?
A
What's
lot
a lot?
of people have been
What's a lot?
influenced by scare tactics that have gone out, pictures of mine that aren't here.
Intimidation?
Sure, sure. But you have scare tactics on the opposite side. Again, when
Really?
you say
Where are
most
they?
people. Oh yeah, we're going to sue you. We're going to sue you if
Who
you don't do what I
said
want.
sue?
Oh, we've got about 6 people out there that have all said that they're going to sue or that people are going to be in an uproar all over this thing. You've got scare tactics on both sides, Judy. Everybody's using the same terms. We're going to sue you. We're going to get sued on either side. I would rather be on the side that says I tried to protect the people and the environment. I want to protect this and pass it on to future generations. I don't want to be on the side that says, well, I let it happen and oh well.
You know,
I
I
mean, where's
wanna,
your
I
moral?
wanna
Where's your
be,
ethics? Where's
don't question
what's
my
in your
morals
heart?
and ethics.
Well, I'm going to question it, Judy. Allowing an
Seriously.
activity that is on that has potential influence or impact
Point of order.
on people's health.
That is totally inappropriate at a
Let's
meeting.
move on.
Inappropriate, Judy. Like I said, can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen. Resign. Then the problem is we're going to have an argument. This is a problem here. You know, if you can't do it, Judy, this is what politics
This
is.
meeting's out of order.
Yeah,
Judy,
this,
argue with me.
let's-
Argue. Have a point. Don't get mad.
let's end
Argue
it.
back.
Let's end it.
Fine, we'll end
The
it.
vote, the vote's been taken, failed, let's move on.
So you're going to move on to an ordinance that is currently in there.
That's it.
That is a disgrace and unbelievable.
Can I ask to extend the moratorium 5 years?
No, we can't.
State only allowed us to extend it until March 5th.
So you don't even want to put in a
That's a
temporary
state.
ban to try and figure this all out.
No.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
We have,
Jim was right, Steve. You should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you, Steve.
Let's go on with it.
okay, next item on the agenda, Highway Department,
You guys kind of sealed your own grave here. I feel sorry for the phone calls you're going to get. It's bad. It's bad, guys.
Not gonna get any better.
I don't think we need threats.
Well, you're going to get it, guys. I can't help what's going to happen.
Moving
I
on.
can't help what's going to happen.
Let's
People
talk
like
about
things
the
moving on to the
Highway
Highway Department.
Where?
Highway Department.
All right, Highway Department. Let's,
Justin, you didn't
Yep.
even show up to the meeting.
that's right, Judy, because I had other things I got to do. I got other meetings to be at.
You didn't even ask anybody to fill in for you.
Judy, when I get called out at the last minute to go to Rochester for work, I can't exactly do that, Judy.
Well, then maybe you should resign, because this is your job too.
Judy, oh man, you are
That's enough,
funny. You are
that's
funny.
enough, that's enough. Let's just leave it alone. I can't remember, we got a Highway Department meeting today.
Yep.
Yep, sorry guys.
Sorry about that.
You bet. Thank you, everyone. Yep, we'll keep going. You guys might want to stick around. We're going to talk about the Highway Department building. We've got a multi-million-dollar building that's trying to get pushed through. If you guys want to stick by, you might want to listen to that too.
Justin, we'd love to, but there doesn't seem to be much democracy.
I'm in a meeting. Not now.
Can you stick? The meeting's still.
Another time.
Really screwed up.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate
Try it. You do. But this isn't gonna help you. There will be nothing wrong with that.
What?
Because it was here.
Do you want to? Are you asking if we need to stick around?
Yeah, I don't like questions.
Probably not. It's just
Jason
commissioner
Wire.
updates and yeah. If you need to go somewhere, Sam.
Justin, or Dan?
Yeah.
Sam? I don't think so, really.
Thanks, Sam.
You know, I don't think we're going to be crossing any legal issues of any kind.
I gotta go to court. I'll be over to court.
Do we have a meeting today, Highway Department? There is none, good. And I don't think there's really, other than, you know, I think we just reviewed cash, you know, what we have available for cash in order to build it.
Did you meet with Carol and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carol and Donna, and Carol said that she's going to, hang on. All right, quiet, please. We're going to keep going with the meeting.
Here's your gavel.
Quiet.
There you go.
First time in 4 years I've heard this.
Yeah.
Highway Department repair costs. I know we had discussed a few weeks ago about where we're going to go with the Highway Department building. Steve and Brian and myself had a meeting with the architects and one of the construction companies, and it was decided that we take it to Carol Lapham and Donna Trehus to talk about bonding. The price right now for the building is, I think it's what, 5 million, I think is where it's
You
at?
may as well plan on it being 5, maybe less.
Yep, $5 million. I guess I've always been against that. I'll continue to push to get against that, but the push now has been to look for bonding and what it's going to cost for bonding and the impacts and what that will do.
It's just more study, more research
Yep.
being done, so
And
no
I talked
decisions
to,
made at this point.
And I talked to Carol before the meeting, and she said she was going to get some more research and get back to us on that.
Okay,
There's
very
another
good.
meeting or something she wanted to conduct, so we'll keep going on that.
Anything new on the courthouse, historic jail? And I don't think there is.
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
We're waiting till after that EDA conference.
yeah. Commissioner reports. Dana, do you want to begin?
Yeah, yesterday I attended the One Watershed, One Plan, which is that watershed thing I talked about that's ongoing up in Preston. And we're working on a open house so the public can see what this whole thing's all about. We hired we had a consultant there that they hired, and he's told us what they're going to do for us. And this will be ongoing for the next year and a half, and meeting every month. There's a lot of issues on that, but it looks pretty good stuff. It looks like good stuff. And I had some negotiation meetings with Judy during the week, and that's going pretty good, I think. That's all I got, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Teresa?
I had a Wildcat Park meeting where we made plans or ideas that we're going to bring to the board of where we go next with our improvements of the facilities. That's all, I think.
And I just had several meetings with some of the townships and members of the community over the regards to the frac sand issues. Stayed pretty busy with that. That's about it.
Yeah, Judy?
I had 3 days of negotiations and Wildcat meeting where that's what we talked about was improvements, how we can fund things that need to be done down there.
What's your next number one priority in Wildcat?
Bathrooms.
We did the playground.
Yeah, we did the playground.
Bathrooms?
We really need to
Okay.
do something with the bathrooms.
They're terrible.
They're very bad. And I also, oh wait, I went too far, I'm sorry. I had a Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Board meeting last night, and we discussed the 50th anniversary of Hiawatha Valley Mental Health is going to be celebrated June 18th, and the commissioners are all invited to attend, and department heads that work with Hiawatha Valley, and it's going to be June 18th from 2 to 5.
Where's it at?
It's going to be at the historical center, I think it's called. It's
That's
in
where we had
downtown.
one of our district meetings.
Oh, there,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Where?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Historical building?
Yep, and we
Oh, I know that.
we're starting our work on our building, interviewing contractors this week. And I think that was all.
Yeah, and I didn't bring my calendar with me. The only one that I did really have was that meeting with Brian, Donatrius, and Carol regarding finance for the highway shop, that I remember anyway. Claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
Got down.
Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
Didn't get here.
Next department head meeting, March 24. Teresa, Dana.
Oh, was department head, didn't you have department head?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, you're
Come to
right.
think of it, I could-
Yep, same day I had that finance meeting.
Steve, I heard you talk to my grandma last night.
I don't know your.
Margaret Anderson called you last night talking about her water, and you said that if something goes wrong, she should sue the company and all that kind of stuff. Remember that?
I did talk, possibly, yeah.
And asked if she even knew what she was talking about when it comes to frac sand and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's my grandma.
See, a lot of people don't really understand.
Yeah, you don't think my grandma understands?
Justin, back off.
I'm not going to back off, Judy, because what you guys did today is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You wasted hundred thousands of dollars in 3 years of people's time.
That's enough.
I'm not going to let it go, Steve. It's going to keep coming up week after week after week.
And I don't like the idea of something being crammed down my throat.
It's not being
That
crammed down your throat,
It is
Steve.
being
Do the right
crammed.
thing. Do the right thing. Teresa, you need to sign that.
I was doing the right thing.
No,
That's
you
enough.
weren't.
That's enough.
You weren't. Well, it's all right. We'll keep bringing it up.
We'll keep coming back. I promise that.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Non-stop. But we're done. And then some. We're stable.
Life got hard.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve claims, human services, and license center disbursements?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Dana.
Motion approved.
I'll second it.
Second by Teresa. Is there any further discussion on it?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion carries. Is there any further business to come before this meeting? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Judy. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Teresa. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think we should keep talking about this. This is a big event, and we're kind of throwing it to the wayside, so I'd like to stay here and talk some more.
Call for a vote.
Roll call, please.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
No.
District 3.
Adjourn.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We are adjourned.